shadows hide you? I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 320 of Coin Conceit, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, December 2nd, in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Carison, California, we got Botticus.
What up?
And from Nomergon, Ohio, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
She's got new monitors now, so when I see her looking away in concern, I now realize there's just another screen over there. What you got over there?
Screens.
What's on that one on the top left? No, that's
have
your.
Twitch chat, Audacity, and show notes, and then I get to full screen Discord now. It's great.
Oh,
The main screen.
fantastic!
I get to see
And
your
also,
beautiful faces.
That's so nice. You know what else is fantastic is Zava Flav is our newest patron. I think that's fantastic too. Zava Flav, thank you so much. I hope I pronounced your name right, or is it Have a Flav? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But thank you so much for your support of the show, and also everyone that left us a review. Thank you so much for that. We got a new review. We'll read it out in the bonus episode whenever we get to it this month, which is totally going to happen. I promise. Yeah. And also we've got Alterac coming. Oh man, time is going to be in very short supply. So, life and ladder. Edelweiss, you go first.
Can I go first?
Okay, Botticus, you
Because
go first,
I don't
Botticus.
want to end on a bad note.
Go ahead, Botticus.
So, I'm going to be honest with you, listener. I do not give a crap about Hearthstone right now. And it really sucks because I'm on a Hearthstone podcast and I want to come on and I want to be positive and all that stuff, but I just have not been playing and not really been caring that I haven't been playing. And, yeah, it kind of sucks because there's a new set coming out and we're doing a show today and we're supposed to look at all the cards and pick out some cards we want to play with. And I'm looking at the set and I'm just like, none of these cards are inspiring anything in me. So like, yeah, it's just unfortunate right now that Hearthstone, Hearthstone phases in and phases out for each of us. Some of us play more at some time, some of us play less. And maybe the new set comes out and there's a cool deck that I end up enjoying. But right now, it's just not striking enjoyment for me, which is unfortunate.
Is it other games are pulling for you, or is it just Hearthstone is not doing what you want it to do, or both?
Not really. I mean, I'm playing a lot of PoE, A Path of Exile, and I'm enjoying that for sure, putting a good amount of time into that. And I was trying to still rank up in arenas, even got a little bit of coaching for arenas and in World of Warcraft, and not Hearthstone arenas, like actual 2v2 arenas. And it's just, we're just not improving. In fact, it's going the opposite direction. Like, where our rank is going down slowly, and our goal was to get to 2K. And like, yeah, we were supposed to change some stuff around, like we were coached to do some things better, but it feels like, and this might just be an illusion, and that we're actually playing worse. But it feels like all of the players in our bracket stopped playing, and the only people left are really good players playing on characters with significantly worse gear, but it doesn't matter because they're so much better than us that they can just have worse gear and their mechanics are better, so we get destroyed by them. And that's not very fun to play against. It'd be like a bunch of legend players starting new accounts and slamming their way through a bunch of people who are trying to learn the game and just don't have the mechanics down for stuff. So that's been depressing, and Yeah, I just haven't had a big urge to play Hearthstone because, like, for me, duels feels worse because I feel less powerful when I play because they powered down a lot of the most powerful passives, and then Battlegrounds is kind of like I'll play a battleground or two, but even though I don't have the same qualms about Diablo, people are complaining so much about it that it affects my mindset about it a little bit.
Well, he gone though. He gone.
Yeah, I mean it did. I'm saying like that
Yeah.
was recent that he went
Yes.
away. And then standard, there's just no deck that really calls out to me. So, hoping the new set changes it a bit. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I just like haven't really cared about Hearthstone in a couple weeks, and I do a Hearthstone podcast, and I want to give good information to all the people, and I want to come out and hang out with my two friends, Hat and Edelweiss, and talk to you, the listener. But if I'm being real, like that's the reason I'm on the show tonight, because I enjoy hanging out with Hat and Edelweiss, and Hearthstone just really hasn't been on my mind.
I think some Hearthstone disengagement in month 4 is not an uncommon thing. And the past couple months there's been a lot going on, which is both an upside and a downside, because it's been hard to like find stable footing, and there's so much attention on mercenaries, and there's hot fixes every other day, and so on and so forth, and there's a lot of change, a lot to keep track of, but also this weird standard's in a very strange spot because it keeps changing, but it still feels somewhat the same. I don't know. I think that your feelings are not atypical, especially in Stormwind, which has been, I think I tweeted this a couple days ago, my least favorite discourse expansion of all time. The gameplay's been fine, but the discourse has been miserable, and at the same time, just a lot of people are... I think your feelings are not unique, is all I'll say, and I think that we've all been through this stage at some point in the show. I hope that you have something that excites you next week, and, the Shaman cards are good, so there's a decent chance. There's some funky Shaman stuff going on.
I wonder if the it just feels like there's so many changes all the time now. Just like every week there's just like a ton of changes, and like grass, like eventually you just get to the point where it's like there's so many things changing that I just don't want to keep up with it too. Like I kind of knew that Diablo was out of BGs, but wasn't like fully sure when it was going out. And I thought it was supposed to be out on the 2nd, but I think they took it out even sooner. Did they take it out sooner than that? Because people were complaining a bunch about it on Twitter, or I don't even know what was happening.
I don't think there's a clear answer there. Because the amount of information that's out there, which may or may not conflict, is hard to keep track of. But it was the original belief was that it was out on November 9th, which definitely didn't happen. And then it was around a little longer, and then a little longer, and then they buffed him. And then they had Thanksgiving break, and that was the period where everyone was freaking out because they buffed him, and then the office was closed for a week. And it turns out that last buff wasn't a great idea. So, while the office was closed and they actually couldn't get changes rolled out even if they wanted to, the community, the BG's community, was not thrilled about Diablo. I think I'm understating it by a large margin. A lot of people just took the week off.
And that was the scary thing we talked about, like, before they released Diablo, is, like, if it's not good enough, people are just not going to care and not going to play it. And then that's kind of a loss for the developers, because they put all this work into trying to add this really cool new hero to Battlegrounds and make it interesting and fun to have in there. And when he was super underpowered, I agreed with that. That was good to have, not the strongest hero in there. And then they buffed him like quite a bit, and then he became the best thing you could be doing. And so not only are you just facing him 1 out of 7 chance every round, now you're definitely facing him every 4 rounds, and probably facing him one of the rounds in between those 4 rounds, and you're usually getting destroyed by Diablo because he was too good. And it's like they want to see him in every lobby, but the players don't want to see him in every lobby. But you have to, because if you don't pick him, you're just hemorrhaging value, right? You're hemorrhaging win percentage.
Yep. So they took him out. There was a mix between people saying this was an early removal or that this was planned as an option after the last round of buffs. I don't know exactly what happened. My guess would be that they said, okay, we've got 22.0 this patch, and then we can go longer if we need to, but this is probably the time to take him out if we need to, and they did. So he was removed by a major client patch, which is also the pre-patch for the next expansion. That's when I would have expected him to go, but it's unclear if that's early or not, or if he's stayed late or not, whatever. But yeah, the dialogue around Battlegrounds was pretty negative. I mean, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have been, because I think that if, well, it's kind of like when they buffed Luna's Pocket Galaxy to 5 and just left it in standard for a while, or when they did Doom in the Tombs and just left it that way. When you change the mode in a fundamental level and there's no way to opt out and it results in balance concerns, yeah, I think people are justified to be upset about it. And then they took him out the second they got back to the office. So.
But he wasn't even in that long, but it felt like I'm sure to Battlegrounds only players, it felt like a super long time.
Yeah, the super buffed version,
so much more than anybody else.
The super buffed version was a week and a half, but it was over the American Thanksgiving break, which, you know, people were gonna play a lot, and I don't know if people play a lot of BGs normally. Just that feeling like it's not an option anymore means, what do you do for a week and a half? So,
right.
I understand the concern. I am hopeful that something excites you when the expansion turns on Tuesday. We'll see what happens, but it is not unusual for people to go through phases with the game. I mean, there are a few times you go back and listen to either the Kobolds expansion or most of the Year of the Raven, you'll hear the same things from me. And there have been plenty of times, I think the second half of Barons, you know, I got to Legend, but I didn't really go crazy afterwards. I had a lot of other games that I was playing too. I was playing Rogue when I logged in, and then when Rogue started being boring, I stopped playing as much. That was the second half of Barons for me, so everyone has their phases with the game. I don't think that's unusual. And I appreciate you sharing it here, and I want anyone listening to know, hey, if you feel that way too, totally cool, take a break. And if you don't have a Hearthstone podcast, which I think most people don't, you can also just chill on the game for a couple weeks, couple months, whatever, and it's cool. If you want to come back after, that's good. And if you don't, that's better, because then you realized you broke your habit. It's okay to take a break and then see how you feel. There have been plenty of times I've taken a few weeks off and then I felt the urge to play again. I was like, I'm really excited, and came back and was happy that I took the break and happy that I came back.
And if you don't have a Hearthstone podcast, Hat has enough Hearthstone podcasts for everybody.
It's true. It's been so weird seeing these Spotify Wraps getting posted and I host their top 3 podcasts. It's happened a few times. It's strange. Yeah. Edelweiss, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been house sitting, which is interesting because I end up in this situation where I have to stay the night there. And I think I am walking this dog at not the usual hours the dog is used to being walked. It's like, noon and like midnight. Because I feed them when I wake up, and then I spend the day at my house most of the time, and then I feed her like around 5 is supposed to be the next time, and then usually I go home again to try and like actually see my wife for a bit, and then I have to spend the night there, so I'll get there like 11 p.m. or something and walk the dog again. But I kind of like being semi-nomadic, so I'm enjoying it. But I think Rachel will be quite happy when I'm done with that. But we also had like Thanksgiving break and stuff. I mentioned it before, but with all the sales that took place over the weekend since then, I have gotten probably more games than I should have. I think I got like Inscription, Katana Zero, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, I think that's what it's called. Code Vein was like very, very cheap. And I gotta imagine there are a couple others in there as well. I've only been really playing Inscription and Katana Zero so far. Inscription is fantastic. I love it. I'm generally satisfied with Hat recommendations, Hat approved. But yeah, that's been really really sweet. A little spooky. Kind of tough sometimes to play that one alone, but I have been surprised, honestly, that I am not strictly in the same position as you, Bot, because I am still super engaged with mercs, and I think often I would be sort of disengaged completely from Hearthstone at this point in expansion. Once we have all the new cards, is usually where I completely shut down on Hearthstone, because all I want to do is play with the new cards, and I can't yet. So I'm not part of the theory crafting this time, which is like in some ways good, because then when I stream it on release, it'll actually be fresh for me. But in other ways bad, because like I just am not engaging with constructed Hearthstone at the moment, except for the purposes of quests. But I've still been super tapped into mercs, and they released a few new mercs, so I'll be working on getting them to level 30 and getting their tasks done. It's kind of funny. Mercenaries has become my go-to like RPG in terms of just sort of switch off and get to feel progression, because just by like doing the tasks you get that bit of progression that's nice with an RPG. And yeah, I get to still be doing Hearthstone stuff technically when I do it. And the new mercenaries they put out are pretty sweet. One of them, I had a sense of what the abilities would be like, Valera, because of the early access that I did, but I didn't know for sure the final form that her abilities were going to take. And then the other two, completely, new characters. So I'm curious to see, as people get these characters, up to level 30 and their abilities, reasonably leveled, whether they'll make an impact on the meta or not. Because as we've mentioned before, due to the whole leveling factor, it's really challenging for any new mercenary to really have an impact until like maybe a week later at least, just because of the time it takes to get them to a playable state for competitive.
Yeah, I'm hearing from people that are more wired into high level PvP that Valera, you just max Fan of Knives and then you're fine. But also I know that her Task 2 equipment, I think that if she stealthed all of your other mercs are up to 4 speed faster, pretty crazy. She seems pretty good. So I don't know. I'm curious to see Vanessa when she comes out next week as well, because she looks kind of bonkers, and she's a freebie on the rewards track, so everyone will get access to her. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I'm definitely playing a lot of modes, a lot of Hearthstone. More, not as much as I want to, which is pretty interesting. Because I thought this is the point in most expansions where I kind of also check out, but with the mini set being so late and the buffs being so late, and just generally liking where this format has gone, I have played Standard Wild. We'll talk about that in a second. And I'm still doing my Mercs dailies. When I say I play Mercs, I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I'm doing my dailies. And I'll dip into PvP when I have the time and I feel like it. And I'm doing my my Coin Conceit Listener Series matches, which are a lot of fun. And had a really great match against Edelweiss week 1, and then another one against Doc Bomb D last week, and then this week I'm against Mana, so I'm looking forward to my O2, even though we both agreed to not play Karen or Diablo. But Standard, I think I still really like the format. Before the month ended, I was trying out the new Drekthar Taunt Druid, and Drekthar turns out, Call to Arms in Aggro Taunt Druid, pretty good. And then I was also trying out the new Doggy Biscuit Face Hunter. And Arcane Anomaly gets stupid big real quick. Really, really fast. And if it doesn't die right away, then it kind of doesn't die, period. And so I've been enjoying doing that. But post rollover, I want to do some different stuff. So I played Fell Demon Hunter for a good bit. Fell Demon Hunter is a fun deck. It's like Soul Demon Hunter with more lifesteal and less soul stuff. But you get to kill people with Magtheridon, and that's rad. And, I played against a Quest Rogue, and they played Big Scabs, and I'm like, alright, I'm gonna kill your whole board, and then gain all the life back, and then play Jason, now you're dead, and it was great. And I've also been trying out some of the new Fatigue Warlock lists, because I played the previous version when Rod cost 3, and you could just play whatever you wanted. But now the list looks so different. It doesn't play Soul Rend anymore. You don't play Soul Rend at all. You play Moarg and Grimoire of Sacrifice. So you end up 1 mana, deal 4 AoE is pretty cool. And so, like, I played today against a Libram Paladin and a Face Hunter, neither one could do anything, because Libram Paladin, I just got to the point where my deck was empty, and I had Big Tammy's effect going, and just, like, tap Little Tammy, Hand of Gul'dan, you take 45. Won that one. And then against Face Hunter, you just kill their stuff and gain all the life, and then they just leave. They just dip. And don't have to kill them, they just, when you heal for 20 or whatever the second time, they're like, alright, I'm gonna go. So, I've been enjoying that, and in Wild, I found this crazy deck from the China server. It plays both Edwins, plays Scabs, and Loatheb, obviously, and then just a bunch of, like, tempo-y rogue cards. And there have been a few times where, like, I'll play a 16/16 Edwin and Loatheb in the same turn, and also it plays Mr. Smite, because New Edwin is a pirate, so you play New Edwin into counterfeit coins, and it's pretty disgusting. And so you just end up with these giant boards and these Loatheb turns. There have been plenty of people that have left the game because they have Loatheb them 3 turns in a row because we play Tenwu as well. And I got up to Diamond 5 and Wild for the first time, and I don't know how long it's been. So, very enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to what's going on in Standard next week. I imagine, from my experience playing with and against various Warlock decks, that there will be a nerf before they leave the office on the following week, right before Worlds, and Warlock cards are gonna get nudged a little bit. They're a little bit too good at killing your stuff and healing back to full right now. And you could change any number of cards. Bristleback, Backfire, Touch of the Nathrazim, could change Drain Soul, I don't think that's the issue. Moarg Artificer, I know is not a Warlock card, but it could change. Raise Dead, like, there are any number of ways to nudge these things. I think Warlock's healing and removal kit right now is a hair too efficient, and there's not really a great way to pressure them down. And there's a new Warlock deck that was seen in the Theory Crafting stream today that I think is possibly real and a little spooky. So we'll see.
I forgot to mention, have you guys seen the new Celestial Alignment Druid?
It's not that
Smite?
new.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
it's not
in
that
the
new.
mini set. But like there have been a flavor of Celestial Alignment Druids going on since Anacronda was printed.
was
But
just
the new one,
surprised at the new pirates that got added to the deck.
it's
Randomly
Jerry
outkill
Rig, right?
you.
Jerry Rig and Smite.
Jerry Rig is a pirate, and the draw a card for each different spell type you've cast as a pirate.
Oh, multicaster. Yeah.
So it plays both of those, and then obviously you give them +4/+4 multiple times in your hand, and then Smite kills them.
Yep. Yeah, there have been various phases. Like, there was a version that was like Goldshire Knoll, Best in Shell, and then you play the Survival after. There have been evolutions of this every time new cards have come out, but this one just kills you right away, so I do think it is an improvement. We're pretty far away from playing Cthulhu. Multicaster I haven't seen is awesome, but that sounds fun. Jerry Rig I have seen, and of course, Mr. Smite, Germination, getcha.
Yeah. Whoa. The list I was playing didn't have Germinations in it, but you probably just put in Germination for Multicaster to go along with Anacondra. That would make sense.
Looks fun. So yeah. And this is also a pretty surprisingly news-heavy episode, so we should dive into this. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so news. We have a patch 22.0, which I believe is live now. Or does it go live now and then the set comes out on Tuesday, or does it go live with the set?
Nope, it went live on Tuesday. This is we're in the pre-patch
Okay.
period. This was the pre-patch, and then they flipped the switch so that mobile users don't have to wait.
Right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, whole bunch of stuff in this patch. Can start, I guess, at the top here. So, we're going as soon as the set goes live, we will have a reward track refresh. So obviously with the new set, they start over the rewards track. You will be granted any unclaimed rewards on the free track and the Tavern Pass track if it was purchased, and completely new rewards track of unlockable loot will take its place. Yeah, there's a whole ton of stuff on this, including like a Diamond Korak the Blood Rager, which I'm guessing means they expect to see that card in play a few times, because that's usually where they try to target their diamond cards.
Well, and the cool thing about Diamond Korak is that like there are so many interactions that summon you Koraks, and he keeps coming back. So it's a good card to have in Diamond because the expectation is that he's gonna be pretty involved when you get him. There's gonna be a lot of ways to make new Diamond Koraks as well.
Yeah, it also says there are 14 uncraftable golden cards, including
Those are from the Honor track.
Okay. Including a legendary minion, Lokalar the Ice Lord. For finishing the track, you'll get to choose from one of the 10 returning hero skins, of course. And yeah, so also, is it every 200 levels you get to choose a new skin too? That's from but that's a different pool of skins.
Yep, that's the Tavern regular stuff. So when you finish a track, you get a portrait. And then also, every 200 levels total, you get a different set of portraits. I believe the tier 2s, whereas the Tavern stuff is the tier 1s. Different armor sets. And also, when you finish the Honor track, apparently the achievement lets you get another one of the tier 1s. Just a bonus. So, yeah. Lots of skins.
Yeah. Lots of skins. And in addition to Korak being a diamond, having a diamond portrait, also Belinda Stonehearth is going to be receiving a diamond portrait for if you own 25 Fractured in Alterac Valley legendary cards. There's going to be a third special diamond card based on the Battle for Alterac Valley event that we knew about already. So depending on which faction ends up winning, we will either be getting a Vandar, right? That's his name?
Yes.
And I don't remember the other one's name.
Drekthar.
Drekthar. Do we have a way to track where we're at with that?
I don't think there's a leaderboard or anything. I imagine we'll just get tweets about it every week or so. That'd be my guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was originally pretty confusing because the first draft of the article, the first publication, said that all of these rewards had to be done by the 11th, January 11th, which gave us a month to go through the entire Honor track. Not true. It's actually just they need the lead time to make the diamond card, so they cut it off a month into the expansion, but you still earn honor for all the other stuff for the entire expansion.
Yeah, there's actually a clarification in one of the articles we have linked that says for the period for tallying winners, the winning faction is from December 7th through January 11th, but you can still collect honor to complete your personal legendary quest chain at any point through the Fractured in Alterac Valley expansion. After the expansion period, the legendary quest chain will be replaced with another means to earn, with different means to earn these rewards. So you will still be able to earn these in other ways. We have a couple new cosmetic coins, including a Horde and Alliance. It's it's literally a fractured coin, where half of it's Alliance and half of it's the Horde logo, as well as an Alterac General coin, that you get for collecting 135 unique Fractured in Alterac Valley cards. Yeah. And there's
Pretty
also going to be a
surprising
35 card
to-
mini set.
Yeah, pretty surprising to me that they're evoking BFA so much, because I don't know if I'd want to draw attention to that, to the fact that that expansion happened. But, you know,
Hey, I like that expansion. I played
All
a
of it?
lot of that expansion.
you did play a lot of it.
I enjoyed it, but that's probably because I did not play Legion, which had the first iteration of Mythic Plus, which was quite good. And
Yeah.
really, I was in there for that. But that's
Yeah,
a different game.
It is, yes. Though this is the most wowified I have ever felt Hearthstone be. Like, I have never felt more WoW influence than this particular expansion in this particular year. This whole year has been very WoW heavy, but this particular one, like, there are even weird carryovers when you kill your opponent. If they're the opposite faction, over their hero portrait it says HK, honorable kill, because that's what you call it when you kill someone in PvP in World of Warcraft. But in Hearthstone, honorable kill means when you kill something exactly. So it's not a big deal, but it's using a WoW term and not a Hearthstone term when we have a Hearthstone term. Just a little incongruent, just a little bit. Because they wanted to
I
keep the
thought it
WoW
was
anachronisms.
kind of cool. I thought it was kind of cool, though.
Well,
When you
I
kill
like
an
the pop-ups. I
alliance-
think
when
the
you kill
UI
an
is
alliance
great.
player.
Yeah. It doesn't upset me, it doesn't bother me, but it's because I've played WoW, and because I like the implementation, but I can understand someone that never has is like, wait, that's not what that means. Because you're just assuming that the person knows the context.
I was confused. I was watching some streams and did it myself, and I was like, wait, I didn't exact lethal. What?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
yeah, because in WoW, you don't have to kill somebody exactly. You can overkill them by a lot.
yes. And yeah, I mean, it's I understand it's a kill that grants honor, but then there's a mechanic in the same set that means a different thing. So it's just, again, it's more assumed knowledge. It reminds me of when they said you have to know who's Alliance or Horde in Mercenaries. Like, Hearthstone players just do not have that information because it's not from this game. So I'm not personally upset by it, but I have heard from some people that are like, I don't get this.
Is it always this? Does it like change what it registers as? Because it says HK and then like Marshall or something. It says like what kind of HK it was. Does that change, or is it always just the same thing?
I assume it shows, I don't know if it shows their rank or your rank, but it is dynamic. It changes based on...
Okay, and
who you're playing with.
it's based on whatever rank they are on the honor track, I'm guessing.
It's either them or
because
us.
this
Like,
honor-
I don't know if it's for the player or for the opponent. It's one of the two. Like, I don't know if it just shows what your rank is or what their rank was, but yeah, something like that.
I would assume it's whatever rank. It would make sense whatever rank they are. It's definitely whatever rank they are, because my first win when I had no... I would have been a grunt, right? And I killed a lieutenant general or something.
Good for you.
Maybe. I don't
You
know.
didn't kill
might
Lieutenant
be
General
wrong.
because that's also on the Horde side.
Oh, sorry, knight lieutenant. I don't know. It was definitely it was an alliance.
Okay. So when you killed them, you saw an
name.
alliance rank and you are Horde. So yeah. So I guess it
Yes.
shows their rank. That's pretty cool. That's interesting.
Just like it does in WoW. That's what it does in WoW. Whenever
Oh.
you kill somebody, it says HK and then it says whatever rank the person was that you killed. Because I believe, I didn't play Classic, but I believe in Classic you would get more honor for killing somebody who was a higher rank.
Hmm.
I'm not positive about that, but I'm pretty sure that is the case.
Seems plausible.
So that's mostly it for rewards track stuff. Do we want to go over any other important stuff? I guess of note, every game you play, win or lose, you will get 10 honor in terms of progressing your honor track. Every game you win, you get an extra 10 if you won against someone of your own faction. But if you beat somebody of the opposing faction, you get a total of 40. And that's going to be the fastest way to progress this track for you.
Yep.
And you get
You
basically rewards for each level you go up on this track.
Yeah, the different rewards, by the way, it's the same gold cards in opposite directions. From if you're Alliance, you start at Stormpike Aid Station, you end at Frostwolf Kennels and Drekthar. Or if you go Horde, you start at the Frostwolf Kennels and you end at the Stormpike Aid Station and Vandar, because if you're playing Alterac Valley in WoW, that is the order that you do it from each side. These are the shared objectives that you fight over on the multiplayer map, so you go in the order based on your faction. It is a total of 7,200 honor to unlock all of the golden cards. It comes out to roughly 20 honor per game on average, and so that means roughly 360 games over the course of the next 4 months. That's in just constructed. You can get this also through arena or duels. You can gain honor. So if you're playing any format that involves cards and ranks, then you can get this stuff. So, and then if you don't get them all, there will be other ways to get them later. So yeah, don't feel a need to grind it out. I think there was a lot of original concern that like you had to play a ton over the holiday period just to make sure that you got all the stuff right away. That is not going to be the case.
All right, and so next up in 22.0, we Edelweiss already alluded to this, but we have had 3 new mercenaries infused into Bristow Mercenaries. They have gone live. Do you have anything else you would like to add about these new mercenaries that have been added at Edelweiss? Any other topics that you think are worth discussing when talking about the new mercenaries that were added?
They seem sweet. Some pretty cool new abilities on each of them. I ended up getting the Valera bundle even though I opened Valera because coins. And it also then got me the packs to pull Sky Admiral Rogers. And I'm just happy that we've been getting new mercs at a pretty regular pace. I wasn't sure if there would be sort of longer gaps, but then more at once. I sort of like this a few at a time every, I don't know, a few weeks. It feels more manageable because at this point I had all task 7s, like all equipment for all of the characters, and so now these come out and it's sort of like, okay, I can just like focus on these 3 new ones. Kind of 4. We're gonna get Vanessa Van Cleef once Tuesday comes around. She's not available quite yet, but there's like a new beast that will be interesting to try out with a beast team. I think as we get more characters in certain tribes, we'll get to maybe experiment with certain synergistic combinations that maybe weren't fully fleshed out anymore, right? Sky Admiral Rogers is a human, so maybe something that was sort of weaker in terms of humans now gets better with the addition of her. And Valera just seems like a pretty powerful green. I think, she may be another one where you sort of want all her abilities maxed out before you feel comfortable running her in competitive. But with maxed of her abilities, just going very quickly and then gaining +10 attack if you combo, she gets stealth. It seems really interesting to me. I think particularly with how strong casters can be in this game, having a really powerful fighter to run as an opener might be a solution. We'll have to see. She also has speed manipulation, which has been kind of the name of the game when it comes to competitive mercs. So yeah, really excited to level these up and see how they play out.
Yep. I've already heard, like I mentioned earlier, that Valera is, fast and makes other things fast and has no cooldown on Phantom Knives, and that seems to be a strong thing to do. But also, it feels like new comps are being discovered every day in Mercenaries. And I think the most interesting thing about this is how they're putting all of the premium track has mercenary skins and battleground skins and the cosmetics for constructed, and Vanessa is a free mercenary from the first step of the normal unpaid rewards track. And that's new. That's a new thing where that's a different way for us to acquire them. And we got some information today from Kaizor, the lead Mercs developer over in the Mercs Discord, that the next round of Mercs will not have any equipment locked behind Task 7. They're going to have a different way to get equipment for that third slot. They're trying stuff. Clearly, they've got some work to do, but they're trying stuff to see what's going on. And yeah, there's going to be monthly-ish updates, so we're always going to have new stuff. The biggest concern I have is pack dilution, because right now the best way to get Mercs is to open the same packs to get the new Mercs. But then if you have any of the old Mercs maxed, you get a bunch of useless coins, like literally useless. You can't do anything with them. They have some work to do on the econ and the packs, as we've mentioned a few times. I hope that they get some of that stuff done before the holiday, but they've got 2 weeks, so good luck.
Yep. And in addition, there's some new bounties. I don't know if you've tried any of them, but they got added to Blackrock Zone for new bounties. Yeah, so just more options for you when you're grinding out some coins through PvE, if that's the way you decide to do that. There has been a Battlegrounds update, so Diablo was defeated. So Diablo no longer in Battlegrounds. He was replaced by Scab's Cutter Butter, which has a very interesting hero power of 2 casting costs to discover a plain copy of a minion from your next opponent's warband. So yeah, it seems like it's potentially powerful, but based on the very small amount of research that I've done, he's not performing particularly well, but also not like bottom of the barrel. So possible people need to kind of figure out how to play him a bit more, but just seems kind of like your run-of-the-mill hero that you're not super happy to pick up, but at least it's not one of the bottom tier ones. And it seems like it's kind of neat how some of the stuff you could do early with him, I would guess. And also, Lord Barov has returned to the Battlegrounds hero pool. And I'm guessing that has to do with Diablo being removed, because I think that's why Barov was removed in the first place.
Yep, because you would pick the Merc you were supposed to fight during the Diablo rounds. Yeah.
Oh, got it.
During the 1 every 4 rounds when everyone fought Diablo, you wouldn't show Diablo, you would show the Merc you were actually paired against, but the way Diablo functions is that he changed it afterwards.
Got it. Okay. And then also, something that we were kind of asking for a little while and is finally here are some new Battlegrounds boards. So, another cosmetic option for Battlegrounds. It's going to, basically, if you have one of these custom boards, you get to either show it off to your opponent, or if your opponent has one, they might be showing off a board to you. So the first of all boards, are they out now, or are they going out on Tuesday? I'm assuming they're out now that the patch is out.
I believe you can get the one, yeah, but I think it's actually pretty expensive. I think it's $20. It might be $10, but it's pretty expensive. It looks cool, but
yeah, it definitely looks cool. But that's quite a bit for just a board, in my opinion. But I guess
$10. Okay, $10. I was looking at the wrong thing.
But you get the board every time, whereas if you get some hero skins, you just might not see the hero that you want to play. So, and then
it says because BG boards are shared with you and your opponent, you may not see your board every round. So most rounds, but not every.
Well, you'll get to see it every game because you'll have it.
Yeah, unlike the heroes where like you can have a skin for a hero that you don't get to pick. Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So $10 is not so bad. Like again, I don't really play BGs. I played my first BG today since Mercs launched in the past 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That's a fun game.
Play?
It's a fun game. I think people will like it.
Which hero did you get to play?
I got to play. I played 2 BGs. Millhouse is good. I
Yes.
got 2 refreshing
True.
elementals, and that was fun. And I played someone and did worse than Millhouse, which I guess happens.
Was it
Who
not
was
a new
it?
hero?
Skycap and Crag. It was Crag. Yeah.
I don't even. Crag's not the one that gives plus attack.
No, he's the once a game you get the gold bundle, like the big chunk of gold, where his
Oh
treasure.
yeah.
I double leveled with him and then didn't find anything and died, but it was fun. I got an achievement.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah,
I
it did.
got a win with Cookie last night. Cookie is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Unless your entire shop is neutral minions, and then you're sad.
Yeah. But yeah, I had fun, and for what it's worth, Reksham is mentioning in chat, and we should at least cover this a little bit, because the armor patch seemed kind of rad. Like, the armor system, I'm looking at the stats right now, and outside of Diablo, who we are aware was insane, the win rates in general, with a couple exceptions, are much closer together than they used to be. There's between 4.5 and 4.65% win rate. I have to scroll. 26 mercenary or 26 heroes in tier 3.
Oh yeah, I was scrolling down in tier 2. There are so many heroes in tier 2. Like tier 2 has just so many, and honestly, just like I was kind of saying when they first came out with it, I think the armor just lets them tweak heroes without messing with the spirit of what the hero is supposed to feel like in Battlegrounds. It just lets them bump them up a little bit without having to change numbers, because changing numbers usually has gigantic jumps in average placement when you have to do something like that.
And as someone that hasn't been as tuned in lately, it was actually really helpful for me to see the armor at the beginning and see one hero with like 5 or 6, one with 10, and one with none. Millhouse has none. And I was like, oh, he's still good, isn't he? Elementals in this lobby? Yeah, I'm going to take Millhouse. But then I saw the game before, I saw Guff wearing his Stormwind Guard outfit, which I love, but he was a 10 armor, and he was next to someone with 6 armor. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm good enough to win with a 10 armor hero today. I'm going to pick someone that's not... Jandis was there, and I didn't feel like thinking enough to use Jandis, and there was no Beasts or Murlocs in the lobby, so I didn't take her. But there were 2 5 armor heroes, a 10, Guff. I love Guff. And then Jandis has a 0, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use the armor to guide my decision without having to open an HS replay tab. And that was also really, really helpful.
Yeah, you can do that, and also you can pick a hero with more armor just because that's the hero you want to play and not feel as bad about it.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, I know this hero is technically worse because it has more armor than the other heroes I have options of, but I really want to play them, and I don't drop as much win percentage for choosing this hero because I have this little extra buffer, and it gives me more of a chance to play. And it gives you even more time to play. Even if your win rate is lower, you're still going to just have more time because you'll probably have an extra turn or two and more opportunity.
I think the combination of the armor patch and the damage cap made it feel like that I can level more aggressively if I want to, and I'm not just dead in the water if I whiff on a start. Like, I don't have to have a really good early game. But also, when I did that, I still lost, right? Like, I still, if I just power leveled and did nothing and got no good minions, I was in the game a little longer, but I still died. I still got like 7th place or something like that. It doesn't make it so you can just jam the button over and over again if you don't know what you're doing and then get there with 6s. You still have to play. So I think it's a really great idea.
Yeah, I think that was a good topic to talk about. And going on with the other ancillary modes, we have more updates, and these ones are to duels. So duels got a fairly sizable passive treasure update, but before that, as Edelweiss said earlier, she's a little disappointed that she doesn't get to play with the new cards. But if she played duels, she definitely could right now, because all of the cards in Fractured and Alterac Valley are now available in buckets. So you can't put them in your initial decks to start, but if you want to try out some of the new cards, you have a chance to get them in buckets that you get for after each game that you play in duels. So that's an option. As far as the new passive treasures go, there's a ton of them. Not going to go into all of them individually. The pool 1, which is the passive treasure you get after your first game, got a few spell damage based on spell type. Got a bunch of these for like fire, nature, frost, etc. And it's +2 spell damage, which is a pretty decent sized buff to pool 1 if you are a spell based deck. And then as far as pool 2, kind of what my guess is, which obviously I haven't had the chance to test all of these out yet, but my guess as to the powerful passives added to pool 2: Expedited Burial. If you are playing Hunter, pick this up, because you are probably playing Death Rattles, and 1-mana Death Rattles are very powerful in Hunter, and doing stuff early is good. So take this treasure. I'm sure it's very good. I'm sure it's probably better than... I expect this one to get moved. I expect this one to get moved to the ultra rare. I'll just say that.
It's, for those that don't know this treasure, it's, at the start of the game, every Death Rattle minion in your hand and deck turns into a 1-mana 1/1. And, some Death Rattles aren't really balanced around being on a 1-drop. I'd say, you know what, I'll say most. Most aren't.
Yeah, some of them, pop out 5/8s with Taunt, and are still 1/1s, but usually cost 5 mana, and a 4-mana discount is a lot. So... yeah, good luck if you play against that one. The other one that caught my eye was a passive called Bronze Signet. Whenever you draw a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. I expect this one to be good too, so check out this one. There's probably some other ones that maybe I'm not thinking about, like Idols of Elune, potentially powerful, passive at the end of your turn, cast a spell you've cast this turn. That one's probably good, but in general, those are the big ones I wanted to talk about. You can check out a list in the link in our show notes, and when I have more time to play some duels and I have a better idea of which passives are actually good, I'm sure I will come back on the podcast and clue some people in as to what has been effective, mostly against me, because I wait till somebody impresses me with a passive first, and then I play it, because I have my ideas on which ones I think are already good until I'm proven that other ones are also good. But that's pretty much it for the duels update. We do have a small arena update, and that is the arena rotation, which I believe we already talked about in a previous episode, but the new rotation for arena is going to be Fractured in Alterac Valley, Saviors of Uldum, Kobolds and Catacombs, League of Explorers, Scholomance Academy, the Boomsday Project, and Core. The dual class arena event will end at and the pool of eligible arena sets will rotate on the 7th. So if you have not yet done your dual class arenas and you enjoy dual class arenas, make sure you get that in before the 7th, because they go away. And I know a lot of people like dual class arenas, and I hope that if you do, that you got a chance to play some.
Friend of the show, Schwal, commented on this format when we posted it in the CoinKC Discord, said that this is going to be a very fast format, and thinking about the 1-drops and 2-drops available in these sets, yeah, probably. Yeah, probably pretty quick. So, that might be fun. Going pretty aggressive.
I think I remember GVG as being a very fast arena format, so...
Yeah, though it's not... I don't think GVG is in this group.
Oh, is that just for duels?
GVG is in duels. This is arena.
I mixed that up. Gotcha.
Yes. But Boomsday Project
Cobalt
also
Zone
has mechs. So, it's basically the same thing.
Also, I imagine that despite the large nerf to Corridor Creeper, if it's a fast format, it's probably still good at a 0 mana 2/5, which it'll probably be on like turn 4
Yes.
if people are just playing a bunch of minions, which is usually what Arena is. I think the last thing in this patch, these patch notes, is a bunch of bug fixes and game improvements. Pat, I'm going to throw this over to you. Any major bug fixes that you think are worth talking about in this list?
Let's see here. There are some weird ones that I know were really, really narrow. There was this weird one in Wild where if you Celestialed and then you got Lothumed and then you played new Malygos that filled your hand with spells, the cards you drew off him still cost 1. So, strange, very narrow, they fixed it. So Wild players that were in that particular scenario don't try and do that anymore.
Also, Wild players rejoice as you can now craft your Goblins vs. Gnomes golden cards again.
Yes, that's the important one. If you had to go craft, we were talking about this in the Discord, like, what do you think was the card that kicked this whole thing off? Where do you think someone discovered this? Shadow Bomber came up, Ship's Cannon, possibly Crackle. It's just like, I'm amazed that anyone figured this out, but they figured it out. There's actually one that isn't on this list, but they figured it out. Celestalon tweeted about it. There's a bug right now where sometimes Zephyrus will crash the game for both players. They narrowed it down to an issue with the visual, so the next hotfix that's going out, which I believe is tomorrow, is going to disable his visual so that he won't crash the game anymore. So just be aware that's coming. This duels one. You Bodicus, you know how you could use small backpacks to draw Cthulhu before it shattered?
No, I didn't, because I never played small backpacks. And
Well,
nobody ever played small backpacks against me.
Well, there was a bug where small backpacks would draw you Cthulhu before he shattered. They fixed that. He shatters now.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
And there is a larger change to priority resolution that we'll talk about later. But otherwise, no major bug fixes that really stand out beyond those funny ones.
I mean, speaking of priorities, why don't we just head into that little post next?
Okay. There is also, before we do that, there is a known issues post that has a bunch of stuff on there. I'm going to post this in the Twitch chat here. As usual, this is a common thing. There's not too much still outstanding. But BG perks went live early, and then if you bought them, then you would have them for the next one. But if you already still had BG's perks, they were a little unusual. So they turned them off until you can buy them. The honor system is actually live now. It was supposed to be live later, but it got half turned on by mistake. So they turned the whole thing on early. So that's why you have the honor system available now. You get an extra few days. And yeah, the rest of the stuff's all got fixed already. So let's talk about card priority. Card priority. This is, if you like nitty gritty rule stuff, you are in the right place. And if you don't, then don't worry. The client's going to take care of it. But basically, this is an attempt to structure card priority effects. There have been a few things that have been weird over the years, right? Where sometimes if you'll like Boom Pistol Bully a Galakron, but sometimes you draw the cards off the Rogue Galakron, their cost doesn't change, but the other ones does change. What happens is card priority and the effects and the layers are coded on a per card basis. And it seems like they went through and they cleaned up a lot of these effects. Because it seemed like every patch there was some issue with like Celestial Alignment and Anaconda. And for a while there, it was Celestial Alignment and Anaconda were timestamp order. Whichever one you played first would take priority. With the cards cost 0 or 1, it depends which one happened first and which one happened second. The second one would always take priority. Then they fixed it in 20.4.2, where it was always Anaconda first. Then, this most recent patch, it was supposed to stay that way, but it was bugged and it went back. But then they fixed the bug. There's a lot going on here. Basically, here's the rule that you should know going forward. If a card references itself on a permanent cost-setting basis, or any kind of permanent basis, that is the thing that's going to happen. If I-Beam says, this costs 1, no matter what happens, if you're Lothubbed, or Cult Neophyted, or Taint Heart Tormented, or whatever, this costs 1 means this costs 1. Whatever the card says is what happens. The second priority is cards with an aura, the ones that glow on the board, that continuously reference other cards' properties. Taint Heart Tormentor is the example they use here. Your opponent's spells cost 2. So if I'm holding an I-Beam, and it's on the outside of my hand, but they have Taint Heart Tormentor play, this costs 1. Because the I-Beam takes priority over the Tormentor. The third priority is cards that reference other cards' properties one time. Freezing Trap. This card costs 2 more. Loatheb, your opponent's cards cost 5 more next turn. Those aren't continuous properties, those are one-time effects. They are the lowest priority. For most cards, should be no changes. The biggest change that we have for this here, right now in Standard, is Moonfang and Moarg. So, that was timestamp order for a while. Moonfang says, I take 1. And Moarg, if you play it after, says, okay, double that. If you played in the other order, if for some reason Moarg was in play, then you play Moonfang. Moarg says, double this damage, and Moonfang says, no, I take 1. Right? That's the timestamp order. Now, Moonfang says, I take 1. No matter what happens out here, Moonfang says, I take 1. That's the deal. So, whatever a card says it does, is that thing. The second most important priority is the cards that reference external things on an aura basis if they're glowing on the board. And then external things on a one-time basis. There are going to be a few of these overall. What I would guess happened here is that if these cards are coded on a per-card basis, I bet they have numbers for priority speed, like which order things happen. And they just went through and they said, all right, these things are category 1, these things are category 2, these things are category 3. Because it seemed like every time they put out new cards, they worked different ways. Baron Scavenger costing 0 when you had 10 cards are left in a Rod discount, I think is a great example. Under this rule, which is the rule that makes the most sense to me, if you did that, external reference that only happens a single time, which is Rod, would be priority 3, and this cost 1 would be priority 1, it costs 1. So, these are layers if you like magic rules. Good luck with that. But basically, the important thing to know is if a card says that it costs a certain thing or does a certain thing, that is the thing that takes priority. Questions?
Not really a question. I just like the change. It keeps us really straightforward, I think, particularly with those cards that reference themselves saying cost 1. And it's not strictly a buff, it's not strictly a nerf. Like, there are situations where it will hurt you, where you would have a discount, and instead you don't. And there's situations where you would have it cost more, and instead it still costs 1. For example, Baron Scavenger gets freezing trapped. If you meet the condition, it'll still cost 1, right? So it'll be pretty cool to take advantage of that, I think.
Yep. It'll just be nice to have some kind of consistency to say this is how this sort of thing should work and to have it written down. I like that they wrote it down. So, that's all I've got.
Yeah. I mean, updates on how things work in the game when things don't necessarily make sense wording wise, I think is always a good thing to have clarity on. Makes knowing how things are going to interact, I think, is always beneficial.
Yes. And not having to sleuth it out.
Yeah, exactly. So next on the news topics list, we have a pretty interesting YouTube video. I just watched this just before the show. It's chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov playing some Hearthstone. And without spoiling it too much, I don't know about either of you, but I was getting, like, the scenery wise, I was getting very much Queen's Gambit vibes from it. I don't know if I was the only one, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Yes.
I think
Maybe
it's
A little
not
bit
like
less sensational.
maybe not like content wise, but just in terms
Yes.
of like the way they like the locations where things were happening was feeling very much to me like that. Although I haven't actually seen the Queen's Gambit because I don't have Netflix, but just like the very little I know about that, I was kind of getting that a little bit.
I mean, that might just be like professional chess vibes in general. Like he's a professional chess player. So and Queen's Gambit was sort of all about that scene. But yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I felt like it was a parody. I don't know if it was supposed to be, but I thought it was a pretty funny video because everyone thinks of chess as, I mean, this super serious thing, and we do not think of Hearthstone as a super serious thing. And it was kind of talking about Gary Kasparov's match versus AI, and I found it very amusing that rather than putting him against a Hearthstone AI, because Hearthstone AI is usually pretty hilarious, they pit him against an actual player. So
Yeah. It's I enjoyed the production value. You know, it's definitely like Gary was invited for the campaign for the Brains ad, right, for Mercs, and that was clearly part of the marketing campaign. But also, it turns out that strategy gamers like strategy games, so I'm not surprised that he liked it. I love that they included Slissa. I think that was great. And yeah, production value was awesome. It was a fun watch. Not what I was expecting to see.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the point I was getting at, is like Slissa's attire made it seem like, you know, like she's the grandmaster in the in the sense, playing against Gary Kasparov. I don't know. I thought it was pretty interesting. Definitely different than a lot of the other media Hearthstone's put out in terms of like advertisement, I think.
they've been doing a lot of, I would say, sort of unusual advertising things. They've been making some real big swings, and I don't know. I think they're fun, even if they're a bit silly. Like I'm curious if they're working or not.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like chess has gotten somewhat of a upsurge tick in popularity in towards the middle of this year. At least to me, it felt like there was a pretty large uptick in popularity.
Oh yeah, I mean, the effect of a hit Netflix show is kind of incredible. Queen's Gambit came out, and suddenly tons of people were into chess. I think there was a surge in like chess.com stuff and people viewing chess on Twitch. Hikaru, who's a grandmaster that streams, got a ton more views, and
I
I
thought that was
think
before though. That was when like Ludwig kind of brought more of a thing,
that
more of
may
a
have
center
been
to it.
that may have been an
Because-
initial spike, but I
Because
think
Queen's Gambit came out in end of October. It says October 23rd. That was only like a month and a few days ago, and I felt like it was a few months ago that I was seeing a lot more with like Hikaru and the Botez Live sisters doing a lot with chess with like Ludwig and a lot of the top Twitch streamers playing big tournament, or not big tournaments, but like Twitch Rivals tournaments and stuff.
maybe
There's an answer here. Google Trends. Let's take a look at the past. Let's see here. Google Trends. Oh boy. Hold on. I'm going to put this picture right up on the screen of what's going on here, because I do think that Botticus has this one. You can call this the Botticus Gambit. If we look at the... Here, let me pull this up. Where is this thing? some high quality audio content here. I'm gonna go ahead and mark this down. We'll edit this out. It'll be fine.
Oh, it says 2020. So Queen's Gambit was a year ago. The article I was reading was from literally September 20th this year, which made me think that it was the series was from this year.
Oh,
But
so-
apparently it was a year ago.
So if we look at the 5-year interest over time graph of chess, something happened in 2018. Don't know what that gave a little spike, but look at the release of Queen's Gambit right there. Peaked like crazy in chess search interest. It's back to more normal numbers right now, though it started to go up again in the past few weeks here.
So then Edelweiss was right, because Edelweiss's point was Queen's Gambit was first.
Yes, if that was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we see as well with Squid Game how you can have this massive pop culture draw. I think people were buying a bunch of like white Converses to do for Halloween costumes because that was part of the uniform in Squid Game, and there was this recent kind of awful thing of a scam cryptocurrency of Squid Coin that people started that got popular because of the show, and then they all, all the people who created it bailed. So there's definitely a massive effect in terms of if something is top 10 Netflix, it can influence all these other things. And Queen's Gambit, I mean, honestly, that show is not for kids, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's, younger girls who sort of looked up to it as like, oh, hey, I want to get into chess.
But yeah, either way, that's that's our little excursion into the chess world there. Make sure you check out the video if you haven't. We have a link to it in the show notes. And then I believe lastly, what we have for our news section is the AMA for the week. And as we all know, Ixar is not doing AMAs for the time being. So that means Celestalon has taken over for the week. So we get a whole kind of different perspective on some questions that were asked. So some of the answers we got from this week's AMA, Celestalon pointed out that Korak does not care which turn it is. If he dies with 0 health, he dies. It is honorable regardless of which turn it is.
This is the only card like this, but it means that you can't attack Korak into a 5/3 or whatever on your turn and then expect your Korak to come back. He's not just invincible on your turn. If you trade him off exactly on your turn, he will stay dead.
Yeah, but if you trade him off inexactly, then he comes back, right?
Is that a word? I know what you mean, but I don't know if that's a word.
What word did I say?
Inexactly? I see how you got there. I just don't know if it's a word, but I follow the process and I know what you meant.
You know me, I make up words all the time.
Okay, maybe it's plausible. I'm not asking because I'm making fun of you. I'm asking because I don't know.
True.
Alright.
So, Bloodbloom and Warlock are both called out by set designers as being the most problematic when designing new cards. To note, Bloodbloom did get changed recently, right? It's now costs 4. Like, by recently, I mean within the last year.
I think it was last summer.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but
No, it was before that. It was in Ashes, I think, because it was the same nerf as Quest Mage. The last Quest Mage.
right. Okay.
The Time Warp one.
Great. So there's also going to be an older non-evergreen keyword is going to be making a return in the future. I don't believe we've had that before, right?
Kind of. Like, so this is the question that I have of what do we think this is? Because there are a bunch of different ways they could go about this. The things that I think of, we've seen, like, Phase Stalker is Inspire, Recruit a Secret, right? That's what that card does. But it didn't say either of those words. We've had a few cards that came back, Witch's Brew and now Full Blown Evil. They say repeatable each turn. That's 3 words to say Echo. And when someone says, what does this mean? We say, oh, it's Echo. And they say, oh, okay. It is slightly functionally different because Echo has that thing where the copies can't go below 1 mana. Repeatable this turn cards can go below 1 mana. They can, so it's slightly different. So if they're worried about that, they say Echo. Tradable is first super cool. Second of all, tradable is the only one. There is no way to do it without a keyword. Absolutely none. You can't write tradable on a card and have it do what it says it does. But that's not an older non-evergreen keyword. And then there could be recruit, because recruit is the one where they've brought it back and it has the most design space, and they tuned it incorrectly the first time, but they can tune it better this time. So I could totally see recruit. Could be spell burst, but that's in current standard. Could be inspire, but I don't know how much design space there is there. We also don't know. Celestalon is a master troll. This could just be on one card, and just to make it easier to read. And that would be good enough. I have no idea. But this would be the first time that we've really seen it come back from outside of standard and actually use the word. The only other one I can think of where they've done this is dormant. Because dormant as well, you can't really you have to say dormant and it has to mean that exactly. And the dormant was not an Ashes mechanic. The first dormant card was the Darkness in Kobolds. And there have been dormant cards throughout Hearthstone's history in various sets, and it's just a thing that they have to reference. So I'm really curious.
Does that mean dormant is an evergreen keyword?
It is, yes.
Therefore, it has to be, right?
Yeah, it's been used. It was in Kobolds. It was in Ashes. It was in Darkmoon Races for. It was in Wailing Caverns for Nerelek. So it crosses multiple standard years already. Like, that's already in use. So it's not that one. Sharazin. Wicked Good's right. That was the first one. Was Sharazin, which was before the Darkness, which was in Angora.
I remember Sharazin.
Yeah, that was the first use of Dormant.
Believe,
that's right.
Wasn't Sharazin the card you used to beat me up in the
one
finals of that coin?
Yes.
Because you rezzed it twice and I just couldn't come back from it. Yeah.
Sounds like something I would do.
Yep. I believe it was in my deck too, but alas.
Yeah, that was what Miracle looked like around then.
Yep. In regards to designing new cards or designing cards in general, mostly what they keep in mind is the standard format, but they do consider wild when designing new cards. However, it is very rare for them to design new cards specifically to make new wild decks, which I believe we all were kind of already under that understanding for the most part. I feel like every once in a while they add a card to a set that could technically be used in standard, but is mostly like a wild tech card. It's like tech cards for wild, but not archetypes for wild for the most part. Do we kind of agree with that? Do we have the same sentiment?
Yeah, I don't think it, and I bet it's probably by accident most of the time too. Like, when you look at Far Watch Posts at 2/4 was insane in Wild because even Tax Paladin tutored it out with Call to Arms. So, like, you would get Nerubian, the 1/4 that makes Battle Cries cost more in Watch Posts, and then your opponent just wouldn't play spells.
Yep. And then in terms of what brings revenue to Hearthstone, Battlegrounds cosmetics have definitely been successful, but do not compare to how much constructed set releases bring to Hearthstone, which pretty understandable, I think, at this point. I think largely due to the fact that Battlegrounds was introduced as basically an entirely free to play and extremely free to play friendly mode, whereas when Hearthstone was released, it was somewhat based on a TCG like model, with the addition of like having, like, obviously you can't play a bunch of physical Magic the Gathering and earn Magic the Gathering packs for free from nowhere necessarily, but yeah, for the most part, Hearthstone was introduced as a game where you buy packs to get the cards you need to build your decks. So that was already kind of a revenue driven product from the start that had free to play options, but were very difficult to achieve without investing large amounts of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think for so many people, it's almost a subscription game at this point. Like you get your pre-order bundle, and even if that's like the only purchase you make, you get your pre-order bundle 3 times a year, and that's your WoW subscription, right? It's like $20 a month or whatever. And subscription is a really good business model. That's why so many things are subscriptions. We're kind of reaching subscription at this point, because it's recurring revenue. And even though it's not technically that way for Hearthstone, you're not required to have a subscription. I think many of us have formed that habit. Whereas for BGs, as you say, it released, totally free, and was so prominent that some people are excited to get to spend money on it, but it's really just a whales in that sort of sense. And yeah, I guess they're not making any comparisons to Mercs here. I'd be curious if Mercs ends up climbing up or not, or if it just has a smaller player base and so it doesn't compare. But yeah, I think it'll be standard, kind of making the bulk of the money for Hearthstone for quite a while.
I have set the name of the episode to inexact subscription. There will be no debates. This is final.
Isn't it inexactly?
Okay.
It was adding the ly because we knew that inexact was a word. But
if I made it exactly what you said, then it wouldn't be inexact.
So if anyone listens to the Snacks Daily podcast, they will have heard that term before. They make up all kinds of words on the Snacks Daily podcast. It's a financial podcast.
I get where you were going with that, but it is much less likely to be a word than inexact, which turned out to be a word.
It's definitely made up.
Inexactly. You're not adding the ly, which is what threw you off. Otherwise, you would have never brought it up in the first place.
Let's keep it moving.
All right. So right now, their goal is to slow down a bit and focus on pushing for stability and polish the existing systems. I'm guessing that means that they're not going to be focused so much on adding new game modes to the client and trying to stabilize the client and have less bugs happening every time a large patch comes out. That would be my guesses to what this is in reference to.
Yeah, let the client get a minute, because it's been pretty rough 1.5-ish to 2 years for the client. Like, they just keep jamming new stuff in there, and we see the side effects of that.
Yeah, it felt like when they added Battlegrounds, it was still pretty stable. Like, maybe there were a couple things popping up here or there, but then they added duels, and we started pretty regularly seeing major bugs happening with every large content release. and now that they've added mercenaries, it feels like we have this topic on basically every show, the known issues list, which before would only happen once every couple months, I felt like.
Well, last November was rewards track, new set, duels, mini set. Those were all new within 2 months, and they all added new things to the client that all did a lot of stuff. And then the next set was Core, which replaced Classic, which it turns out a lot of things were built on. And they replaced Classic, and they also added Classic, which are not the same Classic. Those are two different Classics. They replaced the Classic set, and they added the Classic format. And remember when they replaced Classic with Core, and then gold cards broke the game? Like, it's so many things were built on hard-coded constant from 7 years ago. So, yeah, they need some time to focus on sustainability and giving the client some room to breathe. And also, like, I'm out of time in the day to play all the modes that they have in the game, so that I don't think that there's much more return on investment of their time of adding modes, because they're just going to start cannibalizing even more. So yeah, last November is when it really started, with the revamping of quests and the rewards track, combined with the first mini set, which meant that they're putting more cards in the game on a more regular basis, combined with an expansion launch in November, which they hadn't done before, combined with duels. And then they've only added stuff from there at a breakneck pace. So, yeah. Stability good. I think that everyone that we talked to has talked about how the client just needs some love, and it's good to hear that they are in the same spot.
Yep. And then last part of this news section, we have a bit of a note about quests that I'm going to throw over to Mr. Hat to discuss.
Yes. Well, we have two notes. First, the puppy you see on screen. This is Mams. This is Celestalon's puppy. She is the queen potato. Everyone say hi to Mams. You're going to see her every week on the AMA, or every other week, whenever it happens. Second of all, I wanted to read Celestalon's tweets word for word on what's going to happen with quests and balance. And Celestalon does not work on the balance team. He had to go and ask Final Design, and then he came back and shared what they had to say. Here it is. I know we've heard a lot of concerns about quests potentially still dominating the meta in Alterac Valley, making the slower cards fun but not viable. I wanted to come back to this question now that I've heard from the Final Design team. We'll always be monitoring the live state of the game. We expect Alterac to shake up the metagame pretty substantially, and if any deck, including Questlock, is oppressive, we'll make changes. That's been our philosophy for quite a while. In terms of framing expectations, one of the balance goals of Alterac Valley is to make slower strategies more viable. While we don't want to micromanage exactly which cards are or aren't allowed to succeed, any changes we make will have that goal for balance softly in mind. So, you know, if you wanted slower stuff, hey, so do they. And this is them explicitly saying it. So, keep that in mind. Okay. Questions? We all good to go to tournaments?
Nope,
Yeah.
Let's get into some tournaments.
Okay. Bye, ma'ams.
It's the Grand Tournament!
All right, so there was a Masters Tour a couple weeks ago. American Thanksgiving was last week. It was the week before that, but we didn't have a show. So, Master Tour Undercity, it was great to watch. I think the death of Garrote Rogue was greatly exaggerated because it was the second best deck of the tournament per the stats, right after Fell Demon Hunter, which I'm sure everyone saw coming. Nobody saw that coming. But I've been playing some of that deck, and it's good. It's a good deck. So Shao Ti finally won one. Not surprising. Great player over Dragon Man, Tian Meng, and Zloy Gruzen in the top 4. Give Please, Jekwai, Sherlock, and their name is Sleepy Bear in Japanese. Nemu Tagana Kuma topping. Okay. Are you gonna?
Nemu Tagana Kuma.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Edelweiss, our resident weeb. So, yeah. Thank you, Edelweiss. So quite a stars to the top 8 there. Lots of from hand stuff through the immediate post nerf meta. And a lot of people were trying to target various warlocks, both handlock and fatigue lock. Mozaki Mage is one of the better decks of the event as well, which I really did not expect to see. If you look at the winning decks from Shouty, let's see here. I have this. Shouty was playing, I believe it was playing Lifesteal DH, Handlock, Quest Warrior, and Face Hunter. The Doggy Biscuit Face Hunter, which has been quite popular. And then the second place deck from Dragon Man, there was the Celestial Druid, no Smite, just pure Celestial Druid with one Jerry Rig Carpenter, Garrote Rogue still, Barut DH, and also Handlock. So quite interesting to see what ended up doing well. We had some GM promotions as well, quite a few, because remember, a lot of people retired. So let's see here. I think the GM promotions have been confirmed yet. I should really have looked this up beforehand. All right, I'm just going to edit this out of the show because I don't have the information in front of me. But yeah, GM promotions went through as well. They'll be confirmed at the start of the next GM season. And there's no ladder invites for December, no qualifiers, but the announcement for organized play is coming in 2 weeks during Worlds on December 18th and 19th. Also, by the way, Worlds is coming December 18th and 19th. So, yeah, that's coming. 2 weeks. Worlds, Spider-Man, new competitive announcement, all sorts of fun stuff is going to happen that weekend. Also, for those of you that like Mercenaries and want to play, the Fighting Pit podcast, a new podcast with Mullahu, Zombies Go Nom Nom, and Tankster. They're hosting a Pauper event where Legendary Mercenaries and Task 7 equipment is banned. You can't use any of that stuff. So, if you're interested in that, head on over to the Fighting Pit podcast. The link is in the show notes. Also, they're at Fighting Pit on Twitter. And that's what we got for tournaments. And we're deep in the show already, so let's go to the new card section. Let's go right now.
So, for those who don't remember, or it's been a while, or you haven't been with us for one of these before, we do our new card section in a certain format. We've got 5 sort of questions. Each of us has 5 cards. It's cards you can't wait to play with, card you're scared of, card you want to be good but isn't, card you think is over or underrated, and card you don't understand. And sometimes we cheat and say 2 cards for an answer or something, but oftentimes we overlap in one way or another. Okay, Boticus changed the overlapping, but initially Bot and Hat had the same pick for card they can't wait to play with, so Hat, why don't you kick us off with that?
All right, let me find him. Is this the card I'm excited to play?
Hat couldn't like put the actual name of the card on on his card he can't wait to play, so that's why I duplicated it. But Hat wanted to play Kurtrus, or Hat really wants to play Kurtrus, the new Demon Hunter hero card.
All right, Kurtrus. Kurtrus is amazing. So keep in mind, we just did the full. We just did the full card review episode, which has literally never happened in Coin Conceit history, or like not in years and years and years have we actually done a full class review or card review or whatever. But
not
Big
while
Kurt,
Hat and I have been on the show. Definitely has not happened while Hat and I have been on the show.
But Kurt Hero, and by the way, the naming convention for Mercs, there's the version that's in Barons is the base minion version. That's Little Kurt. There's the version that you get off the quest reward. That's Big Kurt. And then there's the hero card. That's Hero Kurt. Little, Big, Hero. Those are the 3 versions of all these. You can substitute with Tamsin. There's Little Tammy and Big Tammy. And then there's Dead Tammy. That's the hero. She dead now. She was already dead, but now she's like dead a second time, I guess. There's Little Tammy, Big Tammy, Dead Tammy. So just keep that in mind. Little, Big, and Hero. So, this is Hero Kurt. He does damage. I want to do damage too. This is the Doomhammer of Demon Hunter. Doomhammer, Demon Hunter, say that 5 times fast. I just want to do a bunch of damage, and also this is Shaman Galakron, but he's green now. Okay, I'm good. I'm all set.
It's funny you mentioned that naming convention because for me, I think back to Magic the Gathering where we had Baby Jace and Jace. And so I think of them as like the small minion is baby mercenary, and then the quest reward is just the mercenary, and then the hero version.
But so because there are
Let's
3 of
not
them, you
talk
have to have a
about Jace.
descriptor. Yeah. Yeah, no. For
Because I will talk forever because I loved playing that card so much.
which one? Is that Flippy Jace or is that Mind?
TMS.
Oh,
TMS, yeah.
Mind Sculptor. It's okay. Broken Jace.
It's
we
the
called him Broken
best
Jace.
feeling. It's the best feeling to play.
Not for
that
your
card.
opponent.
I would play that card forever at all times if I could.
Yeah, they banned it in a bunch of places, so you can't do that because it's an evil card. It's not an okay
Yeah.
card.
I
But it's fun.
specifically ran a burn card that activated on someone drawing 3 or more cards, and it dealt
Yeah.
damage equal to the number of cards in their hand. Rune Flare Trap. I ran that because of Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah.
Plus one or plus 2.
+2 is the Fate
It was
Seal.
just a 0.
Yeah.
It was just a 0 brainstorm.
Yo,
Yeah,
well, if you have that card in play, then I'm just fate sealing you all day.
It's not an in play. It was an instant. It was a
Oh, okay.
This
trap
is a
shoot
different
instant.
game. We're not Blizzlet. Let's talk about
Sorry.
Hearthstone.
All right.
Okay, so Kurt and Bodikus, you had this card written down. I assume that you too enjoy dealing damage.
So, as most podcast listeners will know, I am not a Demon Hunter player. I do not play the class very often. It is not something that I particularly identify with. However, that is because I've always wanted to play the token version of Demon Hunter, and I think that's what this card does, and also kills your opponent, and I think is very strong and looks very entertaining to play with. I'm excited to see how good it actually ends up being, and how much damage I'm going to do to my opponents, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot. A lot of damage will be being done to opponents with this card.
Yeah. The hero power is whenever you attack with a minion, add a second slice to your hand, and I have killed many people with second slice, so like I like the idea of getting a bunch of those.
I honestly don't think you need to be a token deck. We mentioned before. I think this will basically go in Demon Hunter decks because it's just an upgrade and it's a good battle cry. So
Yep. Yeah, like even in Fell-DH, you're attacking basically every turn, so like summon 2 6/4s and upgrade your hero power. Okay, that's fine. That's acceptable.
I'll also accept summon 2 1/4s. I will accept that, even though I know it won't almost ever happen. 2 1/4s for the new hero power. I'm down. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
It just seems really, really strong to me, so I'm happy to play it. I also do hope that they end up. Token DH actually looked pretty good on stream. The new 2-drop, that whenever you Sharkfin Superfan, whenever you attack, you get 2 1/1s. Really strong card. Flag Runner, the new Darkshark Councilman. These are all cards that I really want to play with, and so I hope that something's there because I want to play a Demon Hunter with 1-drops. I want to play some 1-drops. Let's go. Let's do it.
So this was Hat's card he wants to play with. And also I initially had it here, but I found another card that I definitely want to play with. However, I don't think I will be playing it much in Standard. Potentially I will be, but mostly I want to play with this card in Duels, which is Stormpike Battle Ram, the 4-mana 4/3 with Rush that Death Rattle reduces the cost of a beast in your hand by 2. I expect to play this card a lot and reduce the cost of a Death Rattle beast in my hand so that I can use my hero power in Duels to make more things. And also when this costs 1 with the new passive hero power, and then I get to rush it and do lots of gross things with card cost reduction in Duels, which is powerful.
I don't have faith in Death Rattle Hunter, but this card's just kind of a good deal. And we talked a little bit about Mountain Bear The 5/6 that Death Rattle spits out 2/4, and all of them have taunts. A 5/6 taunt and 2/4 taunts. If you go turn 4 Battle Ram into turn 5 Furry Voidlord, that's going to be a pain in the butt for a lot of decks to deal with. Because think about, that's 14 taunt health. 14. I don't know if we do that, but like I think you could do that and probably do okay doing that.
Oh man.
Also, I would like to say Furry Voidlord more often in my life, because that was the first time and I'd like it to not be the last.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, also it's just, yeah, this is a fishy flyer I can get behind, by the way. This one I can get behind. Cost reduction, I'm in.
Yeah. What about you,
Going
Edelweiss?
down the tier list of playability, mine is awful, but I still can't wait to play with it. I can't wait to play with Arcane Brilliance, the 4 mana, get a copy of a 7, 8, 9, and 10 cost spell from your deck. Again, I don't think this is good, but I'm still going to try all kinds of different stuff with this card, and it'll make me excited for any new, 10 cost spell they either put in core or print, because I'm not sure I want to play the 10 cost objective, but it'll just, I don't know, make me consider all the various spells at these different mana costs and how whether I want them off Arcane Brilliance. So I'm going to be pushing Big Spell Mage pretty hard for a little while to figure out variations. And at least initially, this is going to be in those decks, even if I ultimately have to take it out.
Yeah. This is extremely juicy Psych Melon. There's so much juice in here. But yeah, this is an optimistic card. When you play this, you're like, hey, maybe later something good will happen. Probably not, but good luck.
This is a card I look at and I'm like, I really hope you have fun playing this card, and I really hope that it is not good. I really hope that this card is not good, because I'm guessing some of those games are going to be somewhat degenerate if this card ends up being powerful.
But I don't think you have to worry too much about this one. I think we'll be fine.
Hey, I've seen crazier things happen. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on your side. I just want it to be known that if this card ends up being good, I don't know that the experience of playing against it will be all that enjoyable.
Yeah. What did we pick last set for cards we couldn't wait to play with?
So for me, it was Moarg Forge Fiend, because I was trying to make big Demon Hunter work. I guess I'll try that again because it got some more support.
It is a big demon. I always forget that's a demon, but it is a very significant demon. It's big.
Yep.
Bodicus, you had the best answer. You had the Shaman quest. What a cool quest.
Yeah. Command the Elements. Despite the entire start of the set being about dying on turn 6 or 7, I still played Command the Elements, and I still had a really good time, and I played a lot of it. And
that was still good.
Hopefully I get to play it again, because I mean it's still fun. Doubling spells is just so much fun. Doing double of something is enjoyable.
Yeah. And then well, speaking of that, I had First Flame. I mean, I enjoyed that card. What it did, I enjoyed a little less. I was hoping for a deck with minions where you use First Flame to protect the minions. That isn't what ended up happening. Maybe it'll come back. To be fair, I talked about this. I know this is a big spell mage looking set, but the best cards in the set for mage are 1 mana minion, 2 mana minion, 2 mana spell. Maybe we can play some minions again. Maybe it's time to... I saw that No Hands posted an awesome Egwin mage list. I'm about it. Egwin mage that tops out with Rune of the Archmage. Let's go. I want it. I want to do it. So hopefully I can use my First Flame to protect my 1-drops. That'd be fun. All right. Cards we're scared of. Edelweiss, you had the answer that I didn't put down because I knew someone else would put it.
Yeah, Shadowcrafter Scabs. I think I have been traumatized a little bit by Quest Rogue, being vanished and then you end up dying. And this is a vanish that also puts 8 power on the board, potentially more, because you can immediately hero power out a 2-cost something. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of games that you end up losing, particularly if we go more board-based. It may not be an issue for slower controlling decks, but for anything that wants to be on board, you're going to get Shadowcrafter Scabs, all your minions are going to go to your hand, and then they have like 10 power in play, and you just die. Because it is not hard for a rogue to kill you if they have that kind of a head start on power in play.
Yeah. Also comes with a free Innervate every turn. Old Innervate. Yeah. This card good.
Seems good. I probably would have put it on my list if not for Frost Wolf Warmaster. We've been down this road before. 0 mana 3/3s in the early parts of the game are powerful. As we've seen with what was it, Fellbat?
Fellwing.
Was that the Fellwing? This one hopefully is going to be harder to activate than that card was. But in some situations where you have coin, it also might just be easier to activate. So yeah, hopefully the meta is not just about coining out 2 1-drops and playing this card for coining out, things and playing this card for free on turn, like multiple of these cards for free on like turn 2, and then people dying right away. But I guess we will see, because I don't think we want the format to be about who's on coin first, just so that they can get out their Frostwolf War Masters very easily.
Yeah, I think I'm going to mention this now, but I actually put this in my over underrated as potentially an overrated.
Ooh,
Specifically
fight.
For anything that isn't rogue. This, I think, is sneakily just a rogue card, because rogue has, all kinds of mana cheaty kind of things. You can prep a spell and or foxy stuff and then get this out. But I think for things that aren't rogue, it's actually kind of hard to play this before turn 3. Like, it is going to be a pretty big tempo swing if you can get it out, but you sort of want something that costs 0 to help put this into play, and then you still need a density of 1-drops. And I just don't know if there's enough density of 1-drops for this to consistently get to 0 mana. So I don't know. I'm prepared to be wrong, and maybe it'll end up in more decks than I expect. But I am wondering if this will just be good in Rogue, and then we might end up taking it out of other things because we realize it's harder to play than it seems.
So, I do think it's a great rogue card. However, I think that Druid has 2 words that make this card quite powerful: Razormane and Battleguard. Those are the 2 words, because you do end up playing 0-drops. And both Druid and Hunter have access to Adorable Infestation, which is twin spell 1-drops, right? So, that's 2 1-mana things. I think that, along with the combination of Razormane Battleguard, mean that you're likely to get this to be a 2-mana 3/3 or less. If it's 2 or less, it doubles from Oracle of Elune, which could be quite powerful. Now, if you have Battleguard and Elune, you don't need a lot of help finding power. You're already doing just fine. But I think that this card could come down pretty fast. In aggressive rogue strategies, it could. In Hunter, I think you could. I don't know if you do, but you could. I'd be curious to see where exactly this sees play. It does seem like it has a lower ceiling than Fellwing, because Fellwing, if you just get damage going earlier, it snowballs, but this requires you to hold back resources as opposed to spend them, and so I think it's a lot safer, but could be a free 3/3, and those are a little spooky sometimes. So I'm curious to see what happens here. But I think that in an aggressive druid deck, that it's pretty likely that you could make this work. I don't know if you want to, but you could.
And I will say the last set card that I was scared of didn't really live necessarily up to the hype that I put it at, but also was still in basically every shaman deck, which was Canal Slogger.
Yeah.
And
Good card.
Whenever you saw one come down, it was quite annoying, but definitely not on the same level as, just Mage and Warlock Quest. Wasn't quite that level of being scared of it. What was the card you were scared of last set, Edel?
Shard of the Naru and Royal Librarian, and I'm glad to be wrong on that. Admittedly, Shard of the Naru still comes up a lot because it gets generated, and it is pretty brutal, so just it existing is kind of spooky, since usually a priest can get one of them over the course of the game. But I'm glad that Royal Librarian did not make its way into too many decks. Every once in a while you would see someone tech it in, but not in the way that I was sort of scared of.
Yeah, silence isn't good by itself. Efficient silence is spooky, but this is this doesn't replace itself, and silence didn't end up mattering, and also Stormwind was pretty heavy in the from hand stuff, so you can't silence quest rewards or garrotes. So, this didn't end up mattering too much. I did play Royal Librarian in Brute TH, but that was mostly because it had tradable, and also sometimes you needed to get a taunt out of the way. But, brutes. As for me, the card that I'm scared of is not quite the right word. But I'm scared of the freeze mechanic. And I'm going to highlight Wind
to be annoyed by.
Yes. Wind Chill and Sleep Breaker by extension. These are very efficient single-target freeze cards. I don't have a problem with an efficient single-target freeze card here or there, but I don't love the freeze mechanic, because I like it when my cards do things, and the freeze mechanic means my cards don't do things, and that annoys me. So, I don't mind if there's a board-based deck that uses freeze to advance its own board incrementally. I don't like when freeze is a toxic global mechanic where I make a crazy board and then freeze your board, you can't stop it, and then you're dead now, because your cards don't do anything. Wind Chill and Sleep Breaker toe that line pretty closely. And while I think they're a little bit slower, and they do lean into decks that want to develop and freeze, if there's enough ways to get Wind Chills in hand and they keep being used, my stuff stops doing things. I am prepared to be annoyed by that. Do I think it will be format-definingly annoying? Probably not. But anytime that they push proactive freeze, you can only get Ray of Frosted so many times before you feel a certain kind of way. And I don't want this to be an Invocation of Frost or a Ray of Frost equivalent. I want this to be something that, an aggressive deck will use as a disruption tool, but it still leaves me the resource after, as opposed to my stuff gets frozen for 4 turns and I'm dead now. So, we'll see.
I will not be surprised if this ends up being 2 mana at some point in this expansion.
Maybe. I think at 2 mana the card's not that great. I think at 2 mana the card's close to unplayable.
But so was Invocation of Frost.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna play with this card, so it's not a card that I'm scared of the way that I'm scared of something like Scabs, in particular, which is, I think, the spookiest card in the expansion. But this is one where the play pattern around freeze is there's a really narrow possibility for success there, and I think that we could get pretty close there, but at any time you overdo it, it sucks. So I hope that they didn't overdo it. Card I was scared of
what about your last set?
Last set was the Rogue Quest, Find the Imposter. I think I was worried about linearity. Not power, but linearity. And I'm glad that I was wrong there. And I know that there is a meme about, control F deck building and just play on curve. Anyone that's played Quest Rogue for a little while knows that is actually somewhat difficult to play and has some nuance to it, and I really enjoy playing it. And it feels different from other Rogue decks, but still feels very much like a Rogue deck. And you don't just slam your SI cards every turn and then expect to win. there's some play to it, but it is a bit more accessible for players that maybe haven't played as much Rogue in the past. I think it's ended up being a great design. It's whenever people complain about quest decks, they never bring up Quest Rogue, even though Quest Rogue is, I think, the third best quest deck in the format right now. Quietly tier 2, been there all expansion. Underrated, underplayed, enjoyable. I'm glad it exists. So I was scared of the linearity of the deck building, and that didn't turn out to be too bad. So yeah.
And also was the least scary of the rogue decks.
Yes.
It turned out to be the least scary of the rogue decks.
Yes.
I'm actually a really big fan of that quest deck because you get difference in each game because of the different gizmos you pick up. So, like those first 2 gizmos before you actually just get Spymaster, where you get all of them, can really shape the way you end up having to play things out. And so like that's a fun dynamic. And yeah, it's very board based and very good against board based things. And I think those types of strategies always feel pretty fun to me, even if there's pretty big deck building constriction. I think that's okay.
Yeah. And they haven't printed any SI cards since. So, like, clearly keeping that in mind. But yeah, I like a lot of what they did there, and I'm glad that my fears were not realized. Now we're entering into the category of cards that I want to be good, but aren't. And I'm really glad... Actually, Botticus... Wait, hold on a second. Find the Imposter was your choice last set for a card you wanted to be good but isn't.
And I was going to talk about this because similarly, I hope that the card that I have chosen that I want to be good but isn't, I hope it lands in the same category.
Let's just go now. Do it now.
My
Talk about it
prediction
now.
for last set. So I'm going out on a limb. I talked about this card a little bit when we first got it revealed, but I'm worried that Lightforged Cariol is not going to be good enough. I feel like Paladin got some tools that it's trying to make use out of what Lightforged Cariol is trying to do, and I'm worried it's just not going to be enough, and we're not going to end up putting Lightforged Cariol in any Paladin decks. And I really want to. I want to clarify, I really want to. But I have a feeling that I'm overestimating the effect of that weapon that you get with her, and it's not going to actually help progress any of the it's not going to help you progress like what the Paladin deck is trying to do. So I hope I'm wrong, but I put Lightforged Cariol on this list. And similarly, to Find the Imposter, where I did not think there was going to be enough SI7 cards, it ended up being enough, and the deck ended up being pretty fun. So I hope that my prediction from last set carries over to this set, and Lightforged Cariol ends up being in decks, and it makes it somewhat interesting to play with and against, and ends up being a powerful addition to the amount of choices we have in the set.
I'm gonna hard disagree. On account of not the flashy taking half damage, just on the hero power. Because +4/+4 is a lot, particularly now that we have Smite. And something we talked about over at Sugoi was the possibility that maybe you do just run this in Libram Paladin, you shape it a bit differently, and you just have this endgame win condition to smite them in the face, combination of buffs from the hero power and buffs from Librams. I think the new 3-drop is key for sort of early game stuff, getting to draw a spell on a minion. Like there's a lot of Paladin draw now, and I think we might have enough early game tools that you'll be able to get to the point of being able to play Lightforged Cariol, and that hero power is just it's a lot of stats.
Yeah, I agree. I worry that it's going to be too slow. I think that you're going to get all these stats on a minion every turn, and there's going to be a different strategy that is able to manage it and just end up being more powerful, and you're going to still die. I hope you're right, Edelweiss. I do hope that I am wrong, and Lightforge Cariel ends up being a key aspect of a Paladin deck, but I'm worried that the effect is going to be worse than it reads, because I think the effect reads I think both effects read quite well, and I think in practice might not come to the same effect. But like I said, I hope you're right. I hope we see the card in play a fair amount, but not too much, because also if we see it in play too much and we just like can't kill our opponents and they make just gigantic minions every turn that you can't deal with, and that's really annoying to deal with, I can also see that happening.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think one of you is right. I'm going to stand by that too. Interestingly, a card that I want to be good that isn't is also a Paladin card. It's my boy Brasswing. I like Brasswing. Also, shout out to Forrest Bates for reminding me that if this was Brass Ring, he could have been in Darkmoon Faire. Because, Carnival, Brass, you get it. He gets it. He caught that pun before I did, so shout out to Forrest Bates. But Brasswing reminds me of Primordial Drake, and I miss Primordial Drake. This doesn't have taunt, and really the question here is, how often is the Honorable Kill going to go off? Because you can depend on the Honorable Kill going off on turn 8. Seems unlikely. And sure, you heal all the life back, right? And then it's a giant threat that goes face hook, whatever. And this does all the things that I want in a big cool card. But I think there are going to be a lot of games where I want to play this and I just kind of die because the Honorable Kill doesn't line up. And then that would make me sad. So, I don't want to be sad. I understand that's kind of a reductive sentence, but it's true. And I worry that Brasswing is a card that I get to play as a flashy concession. And instead of coin concede, it's brass concede. And fine, but I'd rather be able to play this and win with it. So, maybe this is something that I have to save for 4-set meta. Maybe it'll be good enough, I don't know. But I want to play this big dragon and kill a bunch of stuff and gain a bunch of life, and then my opponent leaves. I want that to happen. But I hope I'm wrong, and if history is any indication, I am wrong, because the card that I want to be good but isn't from last set was Park Panther, and no, I didn't have to worry about that one. That card's pretty good. It's, see, there was, I noticed that I was wrong when I played my first game against a Park Panther, and I had minions, and then they played the Park Panther, and I didn't anymore. And it's like, oh, hey, that's pretty good. And then they killed me. So, it's... I hope I'm wrong about this one, too.
Why don't we go to the actual co-host that has correctly identified which cards she wants to be good, but end up not being good? Edelweiss,
I think she's wrong, by the way.
For this set?
Well, I'm not shooting very far on these. So my previous pick was Auctioneer Jackson, because I thought it would be really cool to be able to turn your tradables into, sort of discover from your deck, but there just aren't enough of them, and even if there were, it's not worth a slot in your deck. So sorry, Auctioneer Jackson, really cool effect, really nice interaction with tradable, but no, not good enough. And this time as well, I'm not really going too bold on this, I don't think, saying Humongous Owl. A lot of people have a lot of ideas for this card, and I don't think it's what we want to do. I think it's very possible that the archetypes people want to do with Humongous Owl may end up existing, but I don't know that Humongous Owl is what you're going to be running in them. In part because people are trying to do it for, killing the opponent, but it's deal 8 damage to a random enemy. So you'll be very sad if you're like, well, I need to kill my opponent with this big, trigger a bunch of death rattles with Tamsin's Phylactery or whatever, and instead you just machine gun down their board with instances of 8 damage. It'll be so challenging to make anything work with this death rattle, and I think it's too much effort.
So have you seen the deck? Have you seen the deck that's... So the way it works, the OTK, that's how this works. Wicked Shipment, traded twice, 6 imps. Tamsin, Little Tamsin. Phylactery, School Spirits. So, because you use Rod to discount, And because you play the Fatigue Lock shell, and you don't even have to play the quest anymore because you're not dependent on Big Tammy, you get to play Dead Tammy as well because you're not dependent on the quests. So Dead Tammy and no Big Tammy, but yes, Little Tammy. All right, we're keeping track of this. Because you have so much survivability and life gain, you don't even have to play Raise Dead. You can just play Draw. You can just cycle through your deck and play a bunch of life gain and play your Grimoires and your Moargs and your Touches and your Drain Souls and whatever, and just draw a bunch of cards and use Rod. You end up with 14 8-damage triggers after a School Spirits. 14 times 8, 80, that's 112. So even if your opponent's minions soak up 80 damage, you have 34 face damage left. There's a lot. That's a lot, right?
I think if this is happening consistently, then those are the cards that are going to get hit in Warlock, because it's the other Warlock cards that are the problem.
Yeah, it's the draw and survivability is what I'm concerned about in Warlock right now, which is why I expect them to get a nerf. This deck would be a symptom of that, because I totally see that if this deck is good, it's because Warlock has a bunch of draw and a bunch of survivability tools, and then you can kill with a big bird, and then do this ridiculous 4-card 11-mana combo. But it's a lot of damage, and Kibler won't even be able to blame the quest. You don't even have to play the quest. So, outside of that particular scenario, I agree with your evaluation of our big bird friend here. But in that particular scenario, I do think it's there.
I expect to play this as a 1-mana 1/1 in duels and beat many opponents. That is my expectation.
Yeah. All right. Card you think is underrated. You already talked about Frostwolf Warmaster Idol. Tell us about Dawn Grasp.
So, people think that Magister Dawn Grasp is just not quite good enough, and I think it won't go in like every mage deck. I think you do want to be able to target what spells you're replaying in some sense. Like if you're just playing a bunch of small stuff, or if you run face damage in your deck that can end up targeting yourself, like no, you don't really want Dawn Grasp in that deck. But the hero power is a little spooky. I think it can end up snowballing rather quickly, particularly if you bank a free hero power. You know, the new 2-drop that makes your next hero power 0 mana and freeze. I think it's going to be quite good. And sometimes you're going to have to use it for early board control, but sometimes I think you'll get to save it. And once you get to a 5 damage hero power, you kind of can just start hitting them in the face. And maybe you take an honorable kill if it's available, but that hero power has the potential to just snowball very quickly, and then you just focus completely on control and kill them with the hero power. Don't need to run wildfires or any of that crap. You can just focus on control. And I think that may take some people by surprise, particularly if they position poorly and you get a Reckless Apprentice off and it upgrades the hero power very quickly. So I haven't been watching too much of the theory crafting streams. I don't know if someone has tried building the sort of full control deck with this, and could totally end up being wrong. But I just think if they are successful in slowing down the game, then Magister Dawn Grasp gets considerably better, just because that hero power has such potential to snowball.
I could see it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you specifically do with this card. I think most of the shells that people are trying aren't really there yet, but of course control strategies don't get there the first week. Like, that's just not how that works. So I'm curious to see where Dawn Grasp lands. There could be something here, but it seems like they need a pretty specific setup, and I don't know what that setup is yet, so I'm curious to see where you end up landing. And yeah, the hero power is probably the most compelling part. What'd you have last
It
set?
may have to wait until they're 2-week in nerfs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. What'd you have last set?
Last set, I had Encumbered Pack Mule, which I
I'm
think
guessing you thought was underrated.
I think I thought that was underrated and was misinformed because I guess people were higher on that card than I had heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that card ended up being good.
Yeah.
And I think you thought that card was going to be good, and you were
Oh
right.
yeah.
I want to call it a workhorse, but it's a mule, so I don't want to be disrespectful. Yeah.
So, okay.
I
So
like
hear
your
me
pick
out.
here. I like
All right, so hear me out. There was this card back in the day called Twilight Flamecaller. Some of you might remember it, most of you probably don't. It was a mage card, a 3-mana 2/2. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Now, the card that I have chosen is a neutral card, and in the new set. And it's been years since a card like this has been useful, but I'm guessing that Bunker Sergeant has a spot somewhere in this meta. I'm not positive about it yet, but Bunker Sergeant is a 3-mana 2/4. Battlecry, if your opponent has 2 or more minions, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. This is a 3-mana 2/4 in neutral. I feel like there will be uses for this card. I think the effect is strong enough, and 2 or more minions is not a high bar to expect from your opponent. I could see this card making its way and making life annoying for certain decks. So I'm not saying it's going to be a mainstay or anything like that, but I think the effect is strong enough and good enough against enough decks that if the meta shapes out to be a specific way, we could end up seeing this card making a splash and being useful, especially for decks that maybe are trying to, like, I could definitely see mage, like a big spell mage that needs a way to control the board early but can't play a bunch of cheap spells because it needs to be playing the more expensive spells. Not saying that big spell mage is going to be good, but I could see a card like this helping control the board early and not taking up a big spell slot, so you're not worried about stuff like that. Or just like if a token Demon Hunter deck ends up being popular, this card can shut down a lot of early aggression from that and do a lot of work against a deck like that to help stabilize. Especially against like Token Druid too. I think it just does a lot of work in a lot of different scenarios, and wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like somewhat better than it reads.
It's a neutral option, which is really important. There are classes that are better at killing things that don't need this, but the classes that don't have that stuff have Bunker Sergeant. It is a neutral option to safety valve in case Demon Hunter tokens or Druid tokens or whatever go too wide. It's something that you can do. So, yeah, I think there's absolutely worlds where like people end up teching this in. I could totally see it.
And I will say that out of all of my predictions, my prediction for last set, I think, was probably as spot on as I have been about anything, because the cards I thought were underrated last set was the whole set, because I think everybody underrated the crap out of it, and it ended up being a gigantic power spike that kind of surprised everybody, and everybody was dying on turn 6 or 7 the first couple weeks. So maybe I'm right on this one too. It's a less spicy take than last set, but I think I ended up coming out pretty right about the last set.
Yes,
Yeah.
You did.
One, I think Flamecaster was used in big spell mage decks because you weren't running low in spells. So maybe Bunker Sergeant kind of takes that place, updated to a 2/4 stat line, which is a lot more satisfying than a 2/2.
Yeah, it definitely does a lot more.
It'll depend on.
Was Flame Color legal
many-
for that? Was it legal for Alana, Big Spell Mage?
I think I remember it being in some like Highlander Big Spell Mage decks.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Big Spell Mage as much as like that Tempo Mage that still played quite a few like big Earth spells like Meteor and the 7-mana one that made a 5/5 or made a 5-drop.
Oh, Firelands Portal. Yeah.
Firelands Portal.
I
I'm
do
pretty
remember
sure you
playing.
played Flamecaller.
Yeah, I do remember playing one of that in Highlander Mage decks. So like it was definitely
Yeah,
in
definitely.
those decks.
But 2/4 stat line is way better than a 2/2 stat line.
It's about 2 better. So
Prices.
my card that I think is underrated, Rokara. I don't know if this card is going to see play right now. I don't know how powerful it is. I don't know if it's an aggro card. I don't know if it's a control card. I do know this is the card that I have thought about the most this set. And I can see so many game states where, like, I don't know if I'm ever thrilled to pay 7 mana for it, but I can see so many game states where this is the card that I need to win, and there's not really something else that does this effect. Either the unstoppable damage, hence the unstoppable force, because people talk about it being an Arcanite Reaper, but you can't taunt your way out of this card, because the taunt hits you in the face. Or just the hero power, getting value from the armor on a reliable basis, using the weapon to kill stuff and deal some extra damage. I think that there's enough here that this card is going to see play, and decks are going to be built around it in ways that we haven't seen before in this year so far. I don't know exactly how. I don't know if it's going to be aggressive non-quest. I don't know if it's going to be controlling non-quest. But I know it's going to be not the quest, because you don't play Unstoppable Force and the quest at the same time, unless you really just want the hero power in one swing of this, which maybe you do. But I just envision some world where this is doing enough good things between the weapon and the button that we want this. I'm really curious to see what that looks like. But I've just thought about this card so many different ways, and I think it's going to be really annoying to try and slow down if you're facing it.
I'm actually considering a sort of control deck where, no quest, but you've got this, and you've got the new charge legendary based on armor you've gained. It gets that buff.
Captain
6 mana
GVG.
9/9 of charge
Yeah.
is pretty significant, and it's a lot less investment than for is it Grommash, right? Like Grommash, you need an activator. That's just kind of challenging. So I could see a world where you've got Rokara the Valorous, Captain GVG, and maybe the tradable weapon or something, along with cutting classes. So you trade that weapon a bunch, and then you're a control deck, but you end the game by hitting your opponent in the face repeatedly. And this could help towards that end. And the hero power you could use either to start going face when you want to, or to, kill minions to gain armor. So I'm interested in testing that out.
Yeah. And last expansion, I did say I thought Shard of the Naru was overrated. I also said I thought Tradable in general was overrated. I don't think that ended up being quite true. But no one was playing a card just to trade it, except for that awful Grand Finale deck that was around for a day and a half. And they also printed a bunch of really cool tradable cards in the mini set with the upgrades when traded and various different on-trade effects, as well as just, really good rate. Doggy Biscuit is kind of a crazy card. Just in terms of no matter what you pay for it, it's just really good. But the mechanic has worked out where the cost of trading is not that bad, because it's not instead of doing something else you're trading. It's just better than doing nothing, and you trade when you have nothing to do. And that's ended up being really valuable and makes me want them to keep the keyword around for a while. Now, there are some designs that I really like on Tradable. Not just the when traded stuff, but I like Heavy Plate that you're choosing for the armor gain or the tradable. I love Overdraft and Provoke, because if you didn't have tradable on them, I think the cards would be unplayable, because they do literal nothing when they are off. And what you're looking to do with Overdraft Provoke is create these crazy gameplay moments with high payoffs and narrow situations. You want players to find those situations, but you don't want them to be punished for trying. Because if you put a card like Overdraft or Tradable or Provoke in your deck without Tradable, you are punished for drawing it when you're not doing your cool, awesome thing, so you don't get to play the cool, awesome thing deck. By putting Tradable there, you say you get to play the cool, awesome thing deck, and if you're not a cool, awesome thing phase of your deck yet, then put it back and do it later, so we can print this card. So you get these crazy Provoke scenarios where everything attacks your Rattlegore and they all die, or you do it with Kel'Thuzad, or you do it with Overdraft, and then you get it back and you dome them for 19 or whatever. It's cool. I'm glad that you can do it. I don't like Fire Sale as much, because Fire Sale is just a good card. It kills all the stuff, or you trade it whichever is better for you, but there's not really any tension in the card. You either know if you want it or you don't, and if you do know, you just play it. Heavy Plate at least doesn't remove the board. It doesn't deal with the board at all. You have to do other stuff. It just buys you a little bit of time. Fire Sale is just a clean answer, or throw it away. I am less compelled by that design. So I hope that if they use Tradable in the future, I don't want it to be on cards that are just powerful, but also the payoff isn't this cool gameplay moment. It's just I get to kill all your stuff. I don't even love Restaurant Viper because I understand the appeal of Restaurant Viper, but I don't want more people playing oozes to stop the other person from doing stuff. I want the cool stuff to happen. So that's why I love your Provokes and your Overdrafts. Even Persistent Peddler, you don't run into that corner case where you draw both copies and then it just feels awful. You can put one back. Keep doing that. Let's keep doing that. So, Shard of the Naru, I'm glad that was pretty mediocre overall, but still fine to get off a Wandmaker. We said that a lot this year. Card that I don't understand, speaking of priest cards. Stormpike Aid Station, 3 mana, objective at the end of your turn, give your minions +2 health last 3 turns. It's not when I play the minion. It's at the end of my turn. Cost 3 mana. So, am I going 1-drop, 2-drop Aid Station? Is that what I'm doing? Or is there a turn later in the game where I'm firing off a couple of minions, couple of 1-drops in turn 5, and then throwing this down, and now my Frazzle Freshman's a 1-6, and my Tour Guide's a 1-3, let's go! How is this ever a good deal the turn you play it? And what am I doing with this? It doesn't help me trade better, really, because unless my minions are huge already. I get to do healing on my turn because I'm a priest. And it's 3 mana is a ton. So I don't really know what my curve's supposed to be. I don't really know where I'm supposed to play it or when I'm supposed to play it. I'm not sure really what to do here. And the Paladin one, as Donkey is saying in chat, the Paladin one, you play it on turn 4, and it gives your minions +2/+2 right away when you play them or summon them. This just gives your board +2 health at the end of the turn for 3 instead of 4. I don't really get it. I don't really understand.
Turn 1, Vulgar Homunculus. Turn 3, Stormpike Aid Station. You have a 2/7.
Okay.
That's all I got.
You're right, but why?
That's it. Yep.
I mean, I think it's clearly pushing a board-based priest kind of thing, but as we kind of discussed last episode...
Pushing it in which direction?
That hasn't really worked out.
Yeah.
No, you want a 1 and a 2-drop in play when this comes out. I do kind of feel like a lot of priest spells are maybe 1 more mana because we can expect them to get discounted by the 3-cost card where you discover a spell. Yeah,
Palm Reading.
And I'm always wary of priest spells now just because I'm going to see them off of Sethic. So it may not even matter whether a card is playable in terms of it starting in your deck. It could still end up being very obnoxious because it's going to come off of Sethic or Palm Reading, and it'll be reduced or free, and it might do something in that scenario. So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. I don't know. And again, to illustrate that I am wrong as a person quite often, a card that I didn't understand the last set was the Demon Hunter Quest. We figured that one out. It's
pretty quickly.
Yeah, see, what you do with that card is you put it in a deck with a lot of card draw, and then you discount things by 9 mana or more for 1 mana. And that's what you do. And, Pretty good. So,
Turns out discounting cards is good.
and drawing cards. You want to do
Yeah.
both. If you can draw and discount at the same time, that's a great combination. It's like peanut butter and jelly. So maybe Stormpike Aid Station is the new Demon Hunter quest. I don't know. I'm not seeing the direct comparison. I think they're actually pretty different in function, but you never know. Yeah. All right. Bodicus, I can't wait to talk about yours.
So the card I chose for card I don't understand is Korak. And the reason I don't understand this card is because I don't think I can possibly fathom the number of situations in which this card is going to be used, how it's going to be useful, how it's going to die, how it's not going to die, how it's going to keep getting resummoned, how it's just going to randomly, we're going to figure out a way to deal with it. I don't know how if I'm going to see this card in every single deck or if I'm never going to see it throughout the entire course of the expansion. It's a very complex and interesting card. I expect to see it a lot, but maybe I won't. Maybe people will play it and find out that it's actually just kind of easy to kill and to honorably kill it. But I don't know. I think there's just literally so many use cases, and like on the podcast where Hat kind of started talking about some of the options for Korak, it kind of opened my mind, and I realized that there's probably a whole bunch more situations that I have no idea how this card's actually going to get used. So I'm excited to see the situations that it's in, and I just hope that I'm actually able to honorably kill this thing some of the time, because otherwise it's going to be really annoying and really frustrating to deal with.
Yep. So, okay, you have a different kind of interpretation of this question. This is the buffer overflow situation. Too much stuff. Not enough bandwidth. We'll see what happens. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Because there's so many ways where it's really hard to figure out what's going to happen here. And the death rattle stuff, triggering it, resummoning a copy, I think is the counterintuitive part. Donkey, I know, was really excited about it. He's saying in chat right now, prep sketchy. Turn 1 Korak. Just turn 1.
Yeah. That was my thing, is I think people are going to find creative ways to get Korak in play, and then hopefully there are creative ways to kill it and it doesn't just keep resummoning itself, because otherwise it's going to be, I think it's going to be annoying. I don't want it to be an annoying card. I want it to be a fun card.
It's going to be a lot of mind games and weird trades and stuff too, because it can be honorably killed on the controlling player's turn. So if you do a trade where it exactly dies, then it'll really die. And I feel like people might not think of that sometimes because they'll think of it as strictly what their opponent does. So that'll be awkward. And there will be other situations where it's like, well, okay, so you take a value trade and nope, but it ends up at 1 health, and so they get to ping it because there's a lot of hero powers that ping. So it's going to be really tricky navigating the health total on Korak to try and make it awkward for the opponent.
I am also really curious where this ends up seeing play. But I expect it to see play a lot in week 1 and somewhat going forward. I actually was watching, Regis was playing this really cool game against Theo today. And when you Zyrella, you get a bunch of these back. Theo was playing Control Priest with Zyrella. And so, like, if you've had a bunch of Koraks die, for each one that's died, those are separate death rattles. So you end up with this weird N'Zoth kind of effect. If it doesn't get HK'd until the 3rd one, you get back 3 of them. So maybe Zyrella is just going to be BFS with Korak and just make a full board here, while also dealing 3 AoE with Disciple, while also drawing a couple cards, also healing 8 with Light Shower. I don't know, that could be something.
Yeah, I think it could be kind of interesting. And it kind of contrasts with my last set card with Maestra of the Masquerade. I still don't think people understand that card. It's still, and I don't think anybody ever will, because I don't expect it to see enough play that people start to figure out what it's for. I feel like, honestly, recently, I feel like Team 5 is trying to give Rogue the shaman treatment of just like, all right, we've done good Rogue cards for long enough. We're just going to give you some random stuff for Rogue to to make it, not the traditional just, play a bunch of cards and a lot of them go to your opponent's face and kill them.
It's, I do think the Maestra Knoll double agent synergy means I'm going to be playing this on day one, just to trigger double agent faster or discount Knoll a little bit. And I don't know if that's going to be good enough, but I know it's going to be one of the first decks I play. I'm very aware of that. So we'll see how that ends up working. And I don't know if they change this in development or not, but I got two different answers when I first asked. The first answer of, does this count your opening hand? The answer was yes, and then was quickly corrected to no. I don't know if that means at some point in testing it was yes and now is no. Because the opening hand difference would make it tier 1, I think. Because if your opening hand had 3 rogue cards in it, your wild power and Knolls cost 2, you draw a rogue card, your wild power and Knoll costs 1, you coin out 2 of them. That seems excessive. Seems too much. So, doesn't work. It's not how it works now. But I still think it's probably worth including Maestro if you're going for the Burgle Rogue thing. I don't know if we are, but you could. We've done weird stuff before. I mean, remember, in Rise of Shadows, it was often correct to run Vendetta and Fence and HenchClan Burglar, because we were burgling cards every so often. I don't think that we foresaw that, but it ended up being the right thing to do for Rise of Shadows, so, it was interesting.
HenchClan Burglar was a hell of a card. I enjoyed that card a lot.
Oof.
Even though a lot of times I just picked like a Fireball. It felt like that card really liked giving me Fireball, and it was really good in that rogue deck. But
yeah.
Edelweiss, why don't you round us off with your last card that you do not understand?
All right. Well, card I don't understand is To the Front. This is a warrior card that I looked at it and I was like, wait, hang on. Am I going colorblind? Is this the right class? This isn't an effect I associate with warrior things. 2 mana, your minions cost 2 less this turn, but not less than 1. And reading this text, I know that's a powerful effect. I just don't know exactly what I want to do with it, because a lot of the minion things I'm interested in doing are intentionally like high minion density to maximize the effect of hand buffs like conditioning. And maybe this would be okay in that, but I don't really know what the end game is, and I think in certain situations you can end up overcommitting to the board by doing a big play like this. Certainly you can generate insane board presence in a single turn using this card. I just don't know if you have the refill to make up for it. Maybe it doesn't matter. I think on the Angry Chicken, you mentioned that it could go. There's a
the
3
Glory
mana 2/4
Chaser.
taunt.
So there's
Yeah.
Glory
Chaser,
Chaser, which is the 3 mana
Scrapsmith.
4/3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glory Chaser is the 3 mana 4/3 that draws a card whenever you play a taunt. Scrapsmith is a 3 mana 2/4 taunt that Battlecry adds 2 more 3 mana 2/4 taunts to your hand. So it's 6 mana to play 12 taunt, but a total of 10 attack and draw 3 cards. Pretty decent, but I don't know if you're building a deck around that or not. I don't know who needs that, where that matters. Conditioning seems like the obvious fit there, but then you're looking at an 8 mana turn that's pretty ambitious, because the tokens aren't in your hand yet either, so those don't actually get bigger. I don't know. The question is, so I think that your take on this is not, I don't understand it, but I haven't figured it out yet. Bodicus's buffer overflow, Edelweiss's I haven't figured it out yet, and mine is, but why did you make this? So that's 3 different takes on lack of understanding around a certain situation. Hearthstone's a hard game. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know where this goes, or if it's worth running, or if there's a way to kill people with it. but you were the person that I would pick to break it. Or at least bend it. At least bend it.
I would put that on no hands, but certainly 3 mana is the sweet spot for this card, right? Three mana minions is where you're getting them from 3 to 1. So that's your optimal point.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty good 3-drops in Warrior right now.
Well, unlike you could play this as well in Rush Warrior and have a crazy playmaker turn, and your Tent Trashers will go down to 0 because their inherent ability overrides this. Because remember, when a card references itself, it takes priority over external references.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm putting it together. Those would definitely be in the deck.
Yeah. So like if you end up with a you could easily have a playmaker turn. That was the card where you always just ran it out on 3 because you hoped that it would live. But if you end up going like playmaker Rokara, that actually sounds kind of filthy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking about this. Playmaker Rokara for 4 mana total. Okay. We're
How
gonna
does
talk.
Athletic Studies interact?
I don't know. Probably timestamp order. So if you do to the front, if you do studies first,
Which
then
you would want
to,
to.
then to the front should override, I think, because they're in the same layer. I don't know. I have no idea on that one.
We'll have to experiment.
Yeah. I would think that it would end up with the minion costing 1. That's what I would guess. But it could be 0. Or it actually, no, wait, hold on. If Tent Trasher works, so what might be happening here is to the front says reduce by 2, but if it hit once then stop, then the other thing takes priority? I have no idea. The more I talk about it, the less sure I'm going to be, so we'll just have to play with the cards.
Warrior doesn't have like a really good way to interact with Terran Gorefiend, does it?
I mean, probably. I don't know. That's some Edelweiss stuff.
I don't really know what we would want Terran Gorefiend.
I mean, it's like 3. I was looking at all the neutral 3-cost minions that would cost 1, obviously, with this, and you could do some crazy shenanigans.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, Warrior doesn't have Death Rattle doubling, so the Terran Gorefiend shenanigans are greatly reduced.
No. And also the buffs, any minion buffs get eaten and don't come back outside of Terran's buff. So, like, usually Warrior doesn't want to, but not never. And also, like, you can just broom and do some stuff. So, like, I could see it. I don't know. I'm really curious about this now. Because, like, if I have a to the front deck with Playmaker and Rokara in it, and I get to play a Tent Trasher that same turn, I'm pretty happy about where that ends up. So I'd like to be, I want to be there. I want to do that. I want to do that and be there. Alright. Man, Tuesday's gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to it. But that's gonna wrap up our show, except, Edelweiss, the card you don't understand, I think that this was the best pick. Because I don't either.
Lady Prestor for last set. I saw it, play it every now and again, and I still think it's kind of interesting as a curve topper if you say, play a bunch of low end cards, and then by the time you get to 6 mana, you don't really want your 1-drops to have the text of 1-drops anymore. Stuff like that. It's interesting, but it did not pan out the same way as, say, Rafam did in Zulok a while back. So maybe it'll end up coming up, but so far, I think the most prominent thing Lady Prestor has done was make it into a trolled-in video where someone did an OTK dependent on Lady Prestor.
Yeah.
Getting Koldara Drake in Hunter? Something like that.
It's, so far from what I've seen of her, I'm not impressed with her.
Yeah.
Bodicus didn't even react. He's.
I'm choosing to ignore that because now I have to change my coin concede. It was going to be to Hat and Edelweiss. And
Yeah.
now...
Coin concede to nobody. All right. Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our patron information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us at Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats and our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge TK, Proby1, Crash Cat, B-Squatch, David P, Snowpack, Lucky, Fades Black, Wild Lou, Itinerant Wizard, and Jeremy T. And big thanks to Proby1, who just gifted 5 subs. Thank you, Proby1. You're the best. Coin Concedes, Edelweiss, go.
So first to you, Hat, for saving me from getting the wrong kind of adapter. I had placed the order in Amazon for an HDMI splitter, and that was not in fact what I needed, because that would have given me the same image on 2 monitors, which is not what I was looking for. And instead, he guided me to the correct device, which unfortunately was more expensive, but at least it does the job. And that is turning one of my USB ports, I think the more powerful one, into an HDMI port. So the problems with having a laptop instead of a desktop is you don't have as many display ports. So yeah, Coin Concede to you for that. And then Coin Concede as well to Fade to Black, kind of. It's like kind of Fade to Black because it was during my coaching with them, but also the opponent that we ran into that was doing this. We got blown out by someone who was running Provoke in an aggro quest warrior, and I did not expect that. And then I tried it, and it's been pretty solid. It's just either, really high tempo, or, you can always throw it back if you don't want it. But against Face Hunter, which is what we were playing, the first 3 turns are usually what kind of decide it against Face Hunter. Like, if you can navigate through those first 3 turns and come out ahead, I think you're usually in a pretty good spot as a warrior. And as the hunter, obviously you're trying to snowball to a state that you'll be able to, burn them out before they are able to pop off with Juggernaut and things. And Provoke goes a pretty long way in keeping that from happening, because you can take out some minions that normally you would just be playing a 2/2. So then also when the turn you play your 7/7 Rakara, you can play Rakara and provoke enemy minions into her, which normally that's a turn where you might have to take off because you need to clear, and you don't have to do that anymore because you can just play the 7/7 and use it as a clear. So yeah, that's been pretty great.
Botticus.
I am going to coin concede to Edelweiss and begrudgingly coin concede to Hat. I had a lot of fun tonight on the show, despite not being particularly engaged with Hearthstone at the moment, but I'm very happy to have both of you to, talk about some Hearthstone and just have a overall good night. So thanks for making tonight enjoyable.
Yep. My wife asked me after this many years doing the show, do you ever feel like Coin Concede's an obligation? It's like, listen, the reality is I procrastinate doing the show notes until about 45 minutes before. My co-hosts procrastinate reading them until about 5 minutes before. And we fill in the rest of them during the show. And yet, every single time I do the show, I'm anxious for the 30 minutes beforehand, and I always feel way better at the end of every episode, no matter what mood I started in. With basically no exceptions. There was one time we were recording offline, we were during global pandemic, where, it's having a rough day. But then that ended up being a good thing in the long run. But otherwise, every single time I do the show, it makes me feel better no matter how I'm feeling about the game. Because, hanging out with friends is the best part of Hearthstone. And so, Also, while I'm here, Little Robotuscan Crush, thanks for the Prime subs during our Coin Concedes. And I'd like to coin concede to Enzo516. Now that I say that out loud, I know what that area code is. Enzo is our resident warrior enthusiast in the Coin Concede Discord. Been very enthusiastic about theory crafting, and told me during the lead up to the mini set that he believes that the best Quest Warrior deck would play Whetstone Hatchet as their only weapon. And I said that can't possibly be right. It's a Light's Justice. Do you really want to go that low curve just to activate Cannoneer? Seems really ambitious. Then you're just left with this 1-3. You're going to overwrite it with the quest. Enzo, you were right and I was wrong. Just putting that out there. Whetstone Hatchet, good card in Quest Warrior. And that's going to do it for this episode. But we'll see you in Alterac. Keep calm and play your fuzzy Void Lords. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Stopping recording. All right. Hey, we made it. 2 hours 45. What the hell happened?
To make up for not doing as bad last week, I guess.
We haven't done this in a while. Okay. I guess it's
It
almost
was,
new
it was
set
a
time.
lot of news, and
There
then
was
we
a
got
ton of
cards.
news, yeah.
I underestimated the news.
Well, guess we're gonna get a head start on next year's Spotify Wrapped because it's based on hours listened. Yeah, we already got that covered. Yeah. Matt is saying in chat, he got both drops this show. We're here for you, Twitch chat. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go drink some water because my throat hurts. So Twitch, have a good night. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in Alterac. Bye.